It's time to survive and advance once again as the Bills are in Denver for the divisional round to take on the Broncos. Kickoff is set for 4:30 with Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. And full play-by-play action will be right here on the Buffalo Bills radio network. A quick look at the injury report on the Extra Point Show with Sal on Friday. Sean McDermott ruled out Maxwell Hairston and Jordan Poyer. We'll be awaiting more on the inactives before kickoff. That's your Barnes Firm injury report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The Bills have activated wide receiver Curtis Samuel and defensive tackle Ed Oliver from injured reserve, and have elevated wide receiver McCole Hardman Jr. and running back Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. And for the Broncos, per Sal Capaccio on X, they've elevated former Bills wide receiver Elijah Moore, as well as tight end Caleb Lohner from the practice squad. And around the NFL, the Bills kick off the divisional round. Following that, the 49ers, Seahawks tonight with kickoff at 8 o'clock. Texans, Patriots tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And the Rams and Bears cap it off tomorrow night at 6:30. So some games to look forward to there. Pretty good slate. This sports update is brought to you by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. Now for a look at your Denver weather, brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet. Score big with new Chevys and quality pre-owned vehicles from Paddock Chevrolet. We're looking at a game-time temperature of around 34 degrees with no chance of precipitation. The high for the day, 38. I'm Joe Cali for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network.
All right, welcome into Buffalo Bills Game Day. I'm Nate Geary alongside Sneaky Joe DiBiase. A little bit of a modified schedule today. It's Saturday, so, it's not a normal Bills game day.
I've been calling it Sunday all week.
And you will probably call it Sunday at least one more time today. We're getting you ready for the 4:30 p.m. AFC Divisional Round kickoff between the Buffalo Bills at the Denver Broncos. It's with Chris Brown and Eric Wood calling the play-by-play from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. Today's broadcast is presented by Delta Sonic Car Wash. It started out with a kiss. This opening segment of Bills Game Day is brought to you by Crosby's Pizza and Subs, Crosby's hometown fuel, game day ready since 1992. I actually have a Crosby's coffee this morning. So
nice.
Nice. I'm really hashtag repping the brand.
You were going all in on it, yeah. Especially being, throw it up on the camera.
Joe, I asked you. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Now we can do this now.
Yeah.
I asked these guys, when was the last time you've written something handwritten in long form, like more than a couple of sentences or notes?
Did I even do it in college? High school?
That's what I'm saying. It's been a long time.
Not since I've been an adult. Really, I don't remember doing it.
So I've got a thing here, and I thought for more dramatic effect, it would have made sense for me to handwrite this, unfold it, in a dramatic fashion. Now that we're in front of a camera,
yeah,
and it would have been better that way. But I got a little something for you this morning.
What is this? What is this about to be?
Sarah McLachlan. Joe, a few weeks ago, I filled in for Jeremy, if you remember. I was in that seat.
Uh-huh.
And I went on what was now known as the Tyrell Shavers rant.
I see what's happening.
You laughed.
I see what's happening.
You belittled me and his supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a little something to say, if that's okay, Joe.
All right, go ahead.
Dear Tyrell, this week, it's been a difficult one for those in the, quote, Shavers Hive, which I am, of course, the president, founder, and CEO of.
Self-proclaimed.
I just wanted to say how proud we all are of you. The guts, the grit, the glory you showed playing 22 snaps, 22, on a torn ACL. Some of us here in this very room, they questioned whether you could separate regularly. Some of these very same people wondered if all you do is block. But not me, Tyrell. I watched you undress that Jaguars quarter in the first quarter of that game last week. I watched you absolutely moss that Eagles defender just 2 weeks before that. I've always known in my heart of hearts. It won't feel right going to Denver without your pancake blocks and vertical separation, but we know you'll be with us in spirit. As Glenn Fry from the Eagles once famously said, we may lose, we may win, but we will never be here again. Rest now, brother. Curtis Samuel, Mecole Hardman, they have the watch. We'll see you on Chippewa.
Wow. I guess am I applauding for this? Am I applauding that? I guess I am.
Yeah, so hard day for me as the Tyrell Shavers truther of the station.
You know, you really made it sound like you went for like 100 yards last week.
I know. He did have one catch.
Yeah.
But
one catch. It was one catch. He was really willing to, really drag that line out about the one catch because it was the only catch.
It was. There would have been more, I fear, if he was able to, plant off of the knee.
Run, horizontally a little bit.
In reality, though, what a story.
The fact he played on a torn
insane.
ACL in the second half is incredible.
It's insane. And today, the Bills are going to go into this game with I don't want to say, I want to stop short of saying a dramatically different look at receiver, but although it will be, I think, semi-dramatic because I think right now Keon Coleman went from being the fifth wide receiver in this group to probably the third.
Yep.
And we're going to see Curtis Samuel for the first time since...
Oh, man. When's the last time he played a football game? When's the last time you can remember him making a catch? It happened this year at some point, didn't it? I don't know if he cracked 100 yards.
It would have probably been like a screen pass or like a 1 yard out.
Yeah, I don't remember him making a pass or making a catch. I'm sure it happened. Their receiving core, the thing that is concerning, and you made fun of the blocking part of it a little bit, but that's the stuff they're going to have to replace today.
Yep.
The dirty work that Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers do, which is being your main blockers in the screen game, which we know Joe Brady loves to spam as much as he can. Who's going to take that role on? Because catching the ball, I had the numbers earlier in the week, that since Brandon Cooks joined the Bills, the top 6 pass catchers by target are Shakir, Knox, Kincaid, Johnson, Cook, and Cooks. All of them, we'll see about Johnson. Johnson's maybe going to play, maybe not going to play if I missed a report on him in the last couple of hours.
There is not an update. Okay. Obviously, they elevated Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. I'm not convinced, though, that means for sure he's out or there's a decision made.
But let's say Ty Johnson was active today and he played. You would have your top 6 target getters since Cooks joined the team all available today. But that wouldn't be the point.
No,
it would be, how many plays are they crossing off on their playbook because Shavers and also Davis are not available to them?
I don't know about play volume, like the number of plays, but I think you have to, like that duo play where he comes in motion, sits off at the end of the line of scrimmage, whether it's the tight end or the tackle.
Right.
And that he is one of your primary blockers. You are putting Tyrell Shavers either head-to-head with a defensive end or an outside linebacker. There's not a ton of receivers in the league that you can deploy in a one-on-one blocking situation where you feel confident he's going to win that one-on-one block more times than not.
Right. And in his place is probably just by body type. You look at all the receivers that would be available to them is going to be Keon Coleman. And how much do they trust him to do all of those things that Shavers was doing? And that's where both of them getting injured is tough because if Shavers was out and Davis was available to you today, you'd just be, okay, Gabe Davis is going to do all that. But now it's Coleman, which means he's playing all the time, and now it's, is he going to hold up in the block game? There have been some effort plays, I think, that have been in the negative that have been shown. I saw some clips from last week where he was jogging on play. So does he have that dog in him for today to do those types of things? And then on top of it,
they're going to need him to.
And on top of it, he's on the field a lot. So what are we could talk about what Denver will do to them, but man, I am wondering how much Coleman versus Riley Moss we're about to get today, which could be anything could happen.
You want to talk about variability on both sides of that matchup. Yeah. It could just be
Coleman could torch Moss, Moss could torch Coleman. We could get penalties every single time the ball goes over there.
If I could compare it to something,
I don't know.
That 15 to 20 second sequence the other night in the Montreal game where Colton Ellis is coming out of the net to play a puck and then tries to cover it 15 different times.
And everybody is standing up panicked.
And then there's a guy about to take a giant slap shot and you just the puck just moves. That's what I imagine that matchup. It's just going to be organized chaos, I think, for the most of this evening and this afternoon.
And then there's, the lesser degree who's doing all the Shaver stuff on special teams, who's running down punts, who's running down kicks. Is that not going to be a receiver?
I would guess it's probably not going to be a receiver.
It's probably going to be a defensive back or maybe a linebacker or whatever. Maybe Dorian Williams is doing more of that.
I will say there is a byproduct of this that isn't totally negative. Of having Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers out of your lineup and Curtis Samuel and Mecole Hardman in it.
Right.
This is probably the fastest group of receivers, foot speed-wise, they will have put on the field all season.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if it means anything, but in terms of speed, this is going to be the fastest, most athletic group that they will have in the active lineup all season long.
That's right. Do you trust that they'll attack vertically, though? Maybe it's different guys getting involved in the short passing game and you're getting more yak plays.
Right.
Maybe that's the value of it. Allen did take one shot to Hardman in the one game he played earlier in the year, and it should have been completed. Hardman dropped it.
But Brandon Cooks has largely been that guy.
Yeah, Cooks also dropped a couple and then ended up getting there too. Right. But again, we can get right into the matchup if you want. If I'm Denver, I am matching Patrick Surtain against Brandon Cooks all day.
Yep.
And I'm just not letting him have a single catch.
Yep. Which might be why Mecole Hardman is your deep threat on the backside, post or something.
You're right. Maybe you see looks today where, it's the smallest receiver trio on the field all year, where there's a set where it's a tight end, a running back, you're in 11 personnel, and your three receivers are Shakir, Cooks, and Hardman.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's tiny, but they've been successful with small receiving cores in the past. When they had a receiving core of Diggs, John Brown, and Cole Beasley, none of them were taller than 6 feet.
Yeah.
And that was a great receiving core. So, that you can get away with that, but when you're a team that likes to run the ball a lot, then maybe you don't like it as much. And we know the Bills are a physical team that will load up, and they can still do that with 2-3 tight end sets, 12-13 personnel if they want Gilliam playing. But if they want to run out of 11 personnel today, that's where they're losing something big, I think, in Shavers and Davis.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I think that there's going to have to be ways to get Brandon Cooks involved in this game plan, whether that's moving him into the slot and sort of insulating him with Keon Coleman on the boundary to try to force matchups with Surtain on Coleman so that you can free up Brandon Cooks to play against a Jahdae Barron or a Riley Moss, right? Like, I think you've got to try to manufacture ways. And I think it also would be foolish for the Broncos to just say, we're going to have Patrick Surtain shadow Brandon Cooks. He's not a true number one receiver where you would want to do that. Like, you can take Brandon Cooks out of the game, and I think the Bills, if that was their game plan, and it was just, whether he's in the slot, whether he's on the boundary, Patrick Surtain is glued to Brandon Cooks, I'd say, okay, we'll play 10 on 10.
But then the other thing you're doing, though, if you don't do that and don't have him shadow, then you're allowing the Bills to hide Keon Coleman on Patrick Surtain. And I wouldn't do that if I were the Broncos. Like, to me, I would look at their receivers and say, I'm not going to do it against Shakir because Shakir doesn't really run real routes. Like, he's a glorified running back. He's going to get passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of a waste, I feel like, of his skill set on the other side. So if I look at their receiving core and I think who's the most dangerous person running routes down the field, all the things you'll see in a route tree, then, like, I know he's not a number one receiver, but right now he's infinitely the most dangerous player in the Bills' offense in that department, and that's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So I would do that, or we did hear Benjamin Albright earlier this week on with Chopin the Bulldog on our flagship WGR, and he made an interesting point that a lot of times this year, because Surtain's a bigger body, right? Like, he's a corner, but he's a good sized corner. That on third downs, if they're playing an offense where the most dangerous player is a tight end, you will see him matched up on the tight end, and they've done it a lot this year. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, so third downs he's covering Kincaid.
Yeah.
So Kincaid and Cooks. Like, if I'm just trying to think of it from the other side, if I'm Denver, he's either covering Cooks or Kincaid. I think you are wasting his talent if he is covering Coleman. Anybody can cover Coleman. It's just whether you can, avoid taking a penalty and avoid getting mossed, basically.
No pun intended. Because Riley Moss is on the other side.
Okay, that's a good one. We should think of that later today if there's one of those plays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, I doubt
you're the first that's made that joke.
No. I'm batting 1,000 this morning.
Yeah.
803-0550, the number to call. It's time to get connected with our fans. It's powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills. Joe, you want to cue us up here on Jerry in Kenmore. Jerry, you're on Bills Game Day. Good morning to you.
Hey, just so I'm clear here, we're going to dress receivers and not blockers? I just want to be clear on this. These guys are receivers. They're not out there to block. They're out there to catch the ball.
Well, I mean,
innovative.
That's who they are, but they're probably going to be asked to block because there's nobody else to do it, even though it might not be their skill set.
I agree with you. The fastest. It's also the most unpredictable lineup we put out there. There's not film on this. We're not telecasting what
Would agree with that.
Yeah, we're not telecasting what we're doing. When Davis and Shavers are on the field, we're running the ball, and we broadcast that way too much. I want to see some misdirection today, whether it's a jet sweep or reverse. These are over-pursuing aggressive defenses that happened last week. When you have 6 guys at the ball, there's only 5 guys on the rest of the field. There were some times that Cook is running, to the left, that if you reversed it the other way with Hardman, or they're going a long way.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jerry. I do think there's probably some merit to finding a way to manufacture a touch or two for Mecole Hardman, if you trust him. And I think that goes a long way, the trust for him, because I think there's 2 different conversations around trust with this receiving group. One is with Keon Coleman, is like, can we trust you to be an adult and get to meetings on time? And I think largely that gets thrown out the window when he's on the field, right? I mean, that trust is, can we trust you to do your job? But I think for the most part, when he's been on the field, he's not been a detriment. He has not been someone that's running wrong routes and looks unprepared, right? So the thing that I question about Mecole Hardman and the trust we're talking about is, will they trust him to hold on to the football? Because, he had that great return, the kick return in that game, this first and only appearance in a Bills uniform when they signed him. And then that the next punt return, he catches and fumbles the punt. And I think in a game like this, I was watching Chris Long's podcast, and he was talking about how last week the Bills would, in that game, that punts should have been treated like turnovers, and that you'd have to do everything you possibly can not to punt the football to Jacksonville because of that offense. That this week is very different. That if you're Josh Allen, instead of forcing a throw, instead of trying to get one down the field, maybe just eat it, take the sack, and be okay with punting the football against this Denver offense, because there is almost a guarantee in this game that they are going to go through a long stretch, whether it's 2, 3, maybe 4 straight drives of incompetence. They're not going to move the football, mistakes. And all I hear all week is, listen, it's so easy for pundits, for the media, in the lead up to these games to say, and especially after these games, to say, why didn't Liam Cohen just run the football more? They're having tons of success running the football. Well, that's not who they've been all year. They've been throwing the football, especially with Parker Washington and the emergence of Jacoby Myers, and they have Brian Thomas Jr. down the field. It's so easy in hindsight to say, well, if they just ran the ball more, they would have won. And I think it's really easy to look at this Broncos team, a team, by the way, that doesn't run the ball particularly well, that really relies on their short pass game as an extension of their run game, to say, just do what you haven't done all season long. And I think that's what gets teams like the Ravens, a team a couple of years ago that ran the ball really well all year. They were the number 1 rush offense. They had Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. Everybody knows the story. They scored 7 points against the Chiefs because, we've got to throw the football. That's the weakness of this Chiefs defense. Well, when you change who you are in the playoffs because of a specific matchup or game plan, I think that's what makes the experience. Now, Sean Payton's got the experience. I'm not expecting Sean Payton to make rookie head coach mistakes like Liam Cohen made last week. Right. But what I am here to sell you is, I don't imagine that Sean Payton in his heart of hearts believes the best way he's going to beat the Bills is by turning around the ball and handing the ball to R.J. Harvey 30 times in a game.
And even on that commentary about last week, so the Jaguars had 30 pass attempts and 23 rush attempts. How much more did you want them to run the ball?
Right.
5 more times?
Sure. Right. I don't know.
Does that more rush attempts really would have been the difference last week? I mean, I don't know. Sure, they ran the ball well, but this is why when Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored like 10 points in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. Like, if you trust, it's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like Tutin, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
Right.
And I think that ended up being true for the most part. And listen, when it came down to it, one quarterback made more plays when it mattered. And not for nothing, Bo Nix has been at his best in the fourth quarter. I think what a lot of people... I look at their schedule this year, and I look at the teams they beat, and in the fourth quarter, am I supposed to be super impressed by them beating the Chiefs in Week 18 with... Right. I'm sorry, who was their quarterback again?
Chris Oladukin.
Okay.
Oladukin.
And against a defense that probably did not care.
I've decided to never actually learn how to pronounce his last name.
I don't think you should.
Yeah.
So, the Jets game, this is a Denver team that was, I think, the beneficiary of a bad division and the beneficiary of games that I don't want to use the term playing with their food, because that to me is a good offense that's bored, that waits until clutch time to make plays. I don't think that's this offense. I think this offense is largely very mediocre. And I liked... And I said to you last week, I said, I'm actually quietly more confident in this Bills defense than I am the offense. And I feel the same this week about the confidence that I have in this Bills defense. Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, and Ryan Nielsen are on one. And
they are.
Everybody can give Sean McDermott credit. And as you know, for the last month, 2 months, or whatever it's been, I have been all aboard the Sean McDermott defender train. And I think he deserves a ton of praise. But I don't think it should go at the expense of not giving praise to a Bobby Babich and Ryan Nielsen. And I think Ryan Nielsen quietly has been a huge influence in the shift of philosophy defensively, what we're seeing both at the line of scrimmage, what you're seeing in the defensive backfield. Now, that's Sean McDermott. The disguises, what they're doing. They're not going to run man coverage. Would they run man one play in this game?
They might. I saw Dan Orlovsky have that same tweet. You might see the Bills run zone on every play.
And why wouldn't they? This is a Broncos offense that wants to play against man coverage. That's where Bo Nix thrives.
He loves that when he sees man coverage, he's throwing it up to Cortland Sutton.
Yep.
And he loves that matchup. The Bills are number 1 in the NFL in disguise coverages. You know that?
Yes.
That is such an opposite of where they used to live.
Correct.
And last week, I think it's how they beat Lawrence. They confused them all day. So are they not going to do the same thing to Bo Nix today? The way the secondary is playing, maybe Ed Oliver's able to play and give you a few more pass rushes than you did last week. Last year when they played Denver, they spied Bo Nix.
Yep.
And Milano was the guy doing that. He would fire every time he'd exit the pocket, and they didn't score after their first drive.
Right.
Not a single point after their first drive of the game. I'm with you. I would not tell you I would sign up for this, but I could see the Bills winning a game today where they scored 17 points.
I could also.
That is within the range of outcomes to me. Again, I would not sign up for 17 points, but I think you could win a game like that. Denver They remind me of, remember Minnesota a couple of years ago when they had the 1 seed and they won like an NFL record number of one-score games?
That was
and they
the
never
season
looked impressive.
that was the Jefferson catch year.
That was the Jefferson catch year, right. And they went out immediately in the postseason.
Yeah.
They lost to Daniel Jones and the Giants.
Yep.
Like this Broncos team kind of reminds me of that. They're worse on offense, though, even than that Vikings team was. I mean, at some point, you got to look at all these close wins they had against the worst teams in the NFL and say, you know what? 8-point win against Tennessee, a 2-point win against the Jets.
That's the one that sticks out to me.
Somehow you only beat the Jets by 2 when you allowed 82 yards of offense.
That's crazy.
You beat the Giants by 1. You beat the Raiders by 3, and then the Raiders by 7. You beat the Commanders with Mariota in overtime by 1. And you beat, as you mentioned, the Chiefs with their third-string quarterback by 7. Even the Charger game in Week 18 with Trey Lance in, like that game didn't get really to be a comfortable win for them until the fourth quarter.
That was an important win for them.
Right.
That was for them to secure the 1 seed.
Like, game after game after game this year against bad opponents, they've looked unimpressive. Now, should you throw that out because the Bills are not a bad team? And, like, that's kind of the playing down to your opponent type of idea.
Potentially.
Like, what have they done against some of the good teams they've played? They did beat a healthy Kansas City early in the year by a field goal. They beat the Packers by 8, but the Packers weren't healthy.
Yep.
And other than that, they lost to the Colts and the Chargers early in the year.
What was the Jaguars game score?
Jaguars got smoked at home by 34-20. And that game could have been way uglier than that.
Yes, it could have.
So, yeah, like, I don't want to go all in on resume talk, but you piece it all together. They're not good at running the ball. I'm not that impressed by the quarterback. The Bills' defense is on one right now. Allen's coming off a great game and always elevates in the playoffs. Like,
I also think their defensive strengths are either the Bills' strengths offensively or they're irrelevant to the Bills' success on offense.
I'm confident. I'm
confident,
so
not
much
cocky.
more confident than I was last week.
I agree with. I am confident, but I'm not. I do. And we could talk more about this on the other side. There, to me, a level of respect for this Denver team because I think they're a well-coached team. I do think that Bo Nix is more, I think, closer to the quarterback he was last year than some sort of ascending quarterback. I think he's perfect for Sean Payton's offense.
Do you know what explains how confident we are? Because last week when we were previewing the Jaguars, it was all about like, okay, these guys on the defense, and this is what their run defense has been doing, and the receiver trio, and the difference.
Is Sean McDermott could get fired next week?
Jacoby Myers versus like it was a lot of matchup stuff. And this week we got multiple calls about the elevation.
Yeah.
That's like to find something you might be worried about, we got to elevation. That should tell you that you should be confident in this game.
Yeah, we're having sea-level conversations. So
Allen, by the way, played in the highest stadium in the league. Or
in the country,
college
right?
football plus NFL.
Yeah.
Allen playing at Wyoming was 2,000 feet higher than Denver.
And Broncos fans really want you to know that you can't just come back and it be the same. They're really leaning into the elevation
what do you mean?
piece to this.
Oh, the elevation.
Yeah, because he hasn't been there in a few years and played there.
See.
That you don't just come back and it's just
It's not like riding a bike?
Apparently not.
Elevation?
Correct. Who would have thought?
Are we sure about that though? We tested it?
I don't know.
I
I've been to Denver and I did not notice.
I've been to Flagstaff, which I learned this week was the highest elevation city in the U.S., and I've been there and I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah,
but I
also
didn't do any hiking or anything.
Yes, we were not playing NFL football.
No, I was sitting in a brewery. You don't get as tired.
One could argue that takes as much athleticism as playing in the NFL. Monday on WGR, it's Buffalo Bills Football Monday presented by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com. Jeremy and Sneaky Joe will break the game down for you in the morning. Then the Extra Point Show with Sal Capaccio at 10, followed by One Bills Live with Chris Brown and Steve Tasker at noon. Shope and Bulldog at 3. They'll have Eric Wood with them at 4. Buffalo Bills Football Monday all day tomorrow. Monday on the home of the Bills, WGR Sports Radio 550. Time for a break. We'll be back at a snap. It's brought to you by Snapdragon Apples, the official apple of the Buffalo Bills. I think it also would be foolish for the Broncos to just say, we're going to have Patrick Surtain shadow Brandon Cooks. I don't, he's not, to me, he's not a true number one receiver where you would want to do that. Like, you can take Brandon Cooks out of the game, and I think the Bills, if that was their game plan, and it was just, whether he's in the slot, whether he's on the boundary, Patrick Surtain is glued to Brandon Cooks. I'd say, okay, we'll play 10 on 10.
But then the other thing you're doing, though, if you don't do that and don't have him shadow, then you're allowing the Bills to hide Keon Coleman on Patrick Surtain. And I wouldn't do that if I were the Broncos. Like, to me, I would look at their receivers and say, I'm not going to do it against Shakir because Shakir doesn't really run real routes. Like, he's a glorified running back. He's going to get passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of a waste, I feel like, of his skill set on the other side. So if I look at their receiving core and I think who's the most dangerous person running routes down the field, all the things you'll see in a route tree, then like I know he's not a number one receiver, but right now he's infinitely the most dangerous player in the Bills' offense in that department, and that's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So I would do that, or we did hear Benjamin Albright earlier this week on with Chopin the Bulldog on our flagship WGR, and he made an interesting point that a lot of times this year, because Surtain's a bigger body, right? Like he's a corner, but he's a good sized corner. That on third downs, if they're playing an offense where the most dangerous player is not a slot, is a tight end, you will see him matched up on the tight end, and they've done it a lot this year. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, oh, so third downs he's covering Kincaid.
Yeah.
So Kincaid and Cooks. Like if I'm just trying to think of it from the other side. If I'm Denver, he's either covering Cooks or Kincaid. I think you are wasting his talent if he is covering Coleman. Anybody can cover Coleman. It's just whether you can, avoid taking a penalty and avoid getting mossed, basically.
No pun intended. Because Riley Moss is on the other side.
Okay, that's a good one. We should think of that later today if there's one of those plays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, I doubt
you're the first that's made that joke.
No. I'm batting 1,000 this morning.
When Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored like 10 points in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. Like, if you trust... It's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards a carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like 210, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
All right.
And I think that ended up being true.
Time to survive and advance once again as the Bills are in Denver for the divisional round to take on the Broncos. Kickoff is at 4:30 with Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth, and full play-by-play action right here on the Buffalo Bills radio network. A quick look at the injury report on the Extra Point Show with Sal on Friday. Sean McDermott ruled out Maxwell Hairston and Jordan Poyer. We'll be awaiting more on the inactives coming before kickoff. That's your Barnes Firm Injury Report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Some elevations and activations for the Bills as they've activated wide receiver Curtis Samuel and defensive tackle Ed Oliver from injured reserve. And they've elevated wide receiver McCole Hardman Jr. and running back Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. And for the Broncos, per Sal on X, the Broncos have elevated former Bills wide receiver Elijah Moore, as well as tight end Caleb Lohner from the practice squad. Around the NFL, the Bills kick off the divisional round, and following that, the 49ers and Seahawks tonight with kickoff at 8 o'clock. Some news from ESPN's Adam Schefter, though. He's reporting Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold, dealing with that oblique injury, got in practice, hasn't thrown a football since Thursday, while Drew Lock has taken the practice reps over the past 2 days. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Texans, Patriots tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and the Rams and Bears cap it off tomorrow night at 6:30. More news around the NFL. Giants still expected to sign former Ravens head coach John Harbaugh to a 5-year contract to be their next head coach. The Chargers will interview former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel for their offensive coordinator vacancy. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Packers are working on a contract extension for head coach Matt LaFleur. This sports update brought to you by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. Now for a look at your Denver weather, brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet. Score big with new Chevys and quality pre-owned vehicles from Paddock Chevrolet. We're looking at a game time temperature of 34 degrees, no chance of precipitation, and the high for today is 38, so a little brisk out there in the Mile High City. I'm Joe Cali for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network.
Well, we're aware of it, and yet at the same time, we're trying to approach everything in moderation. And the guys that our medical staff is concerned about, making sure we're, being intentional with those players, and at the same time, making sure we're going about our business the right way as we prepare here.
That's Bills head coach Sean McDermott talking elevation, because that's where we're at the elevation portion of pregame here on Bills Game Day. And Bills Game Day is powered by Anderson Water Power and Air. Anderson, tap in to better living. I'm Nate Geary, Sneaky Joe DiBiase here along with you. Let's go back to the phones and get connected with our fans, powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills. And Mark in Rochester, he's been waiting patiently. You're on with Nate and Joe. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, boys. Happy game day. So all week, whether I've been reading articles or, TV, radio, whatever, it's always, Josh Allen against the Denver defense. That's all you talk about. Well, not you guys, but that's all I've been hearing. I think today, with the Bills defense going up against the Broncos offense, I think that's going to be more of the storyline after the game. I think they're underrating our defense, which they have every right to do that. Statistically, I think they're back to the bend but don't break kind of defense right now. And as a Bills fan, you can definitely watch over the past couple of years when McDermott gets his hands on that defense, and he kind of tweaks this and tweaks, you can see the difference. And in the last, 5-6 weeks, you can absolutely see the difference in that defense when he kind of says, hey, let's try this, let's do that. And, you guys talk about how they disguise their coverages. They're friggin' awesome at that. Awesome. And I love the direction that they have gone in the last few weeks, because it was scary watching their run defense over the year and be like, man, they're not going anywhere with this run defense. But they've been working on it. You can see that as a fan. You can see that, And I think that's going to be more of the storyline after the game is the Bills defense shutting down the Denver offense. I just see that happening. And then real quick, I just want to let you guys know, with the Snapdragon apples, I go to a local liquor store in a town by me, and they always have a trivia question. And yesterday I went there, for pregame stuff, and their trivia question was, what is the official apple of the Buffalo Bills? So because of you guys, I nailed it. I got their employee discount because nobody got the answer right all day long. So thank you, GR, man.
Well, I'll be expecting. I'll be expecting maybe a small bourbon my way in my mailbox when I get back here on Monday. Mark brings up a good point, and I wanted to bring this up to you at some point, and this feels like a great point to maybe go off of. I thought the wild card round, and I think this season has largely been the season of the coach. Mm-hmm. And look no further than, is it 8 openings?
9.
9 openings.
Unless it might be 8 now if we're counting Harbaugh filling the Giants.
Sure.
Although, is that done yet?
No.
Okay. So 9. Really.
So that aside, that's a little bit more supporting evidence to the point I'm about to make. Go back to the wild card round and think about every team that won in the wild card round. Mm-hmm. The Bears. Their coach has come in and absolutely transformed not just the culture, but the offensive identity of that team. The first 4,000-yard passer in the team's history. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now let's go to the other side of that, and LaFleur, who has been largely considered a very good coach in the league, but that game was the better coach won. He got out-coached. LaFleur got out-coached. Let's go to the other NFC matchup. Eagles, Niners. Mm-hmm. The Niners win that game because they've got Kyle Shanahan. He's a great coach, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, Robert Saleh.
Saleh over Sirianni.
And Sirianni and the guy they just got rid of, whatever his name is, Patillo.
Yeah.
Done. On the AFC side, Harbaugh, fine, but Greg Roman versus Vrabel. They
Smoked.
win. Vrabel and McDaniels overcoming and winning.
Yeah.
I thought last week, Bills and Jaguars. I like Liam Cohen. I like Campanelli a lot on the defensive side of the ball. There was a lot of talk about that being the superior coaches in that matchup. I thought the Bills, both Joe Brady and Sean McDermott, outcoached the hell out of those two. Mm-hmm. I think that what we're seeing across the league, now, largely, especially this year, it's more important than ever because the quarterbacks aren't in it other than Josh Allen.
Right.
The big name quarterbacks are not in this. So what is the biggest differentiator if really these teams are all kind of similar? I think that more than likely this will be the hardest road. I know people don't want to hear this. If the Bills make it to a Super Bowl, this will be the hardest group of AFC teams they will have faced since they started their run 7 years ago. They will probably face 3 of the league's top 5 defenses along the way.
That's true, right. Like, the defensive point will absolutely be the case. The thing about having Allen right now is Allen is the one guy in... no, not one guy. I think May is probably this too.
Would agree.
But you've got one of the quarterbacks that can overcome the coaching, right? Like, when McDermott wins a coaching battle against a Liam Cohen, or if he does it today against a Sean Payton, then you're going to win that matchup. Because Bo Nix and Trevor Lawrence are almost never overcoming the fact that their coach is getting worked by the other coach. Like, think of some of those Chief games from last year. Remember when Spagnuolo on 3rd down, both in the regular season game and in the playoff game, destroyed Joe Brady in those 2 plays?
Yeah.
The first play totally confused the Bills, and they had the right call, and everything was shut down, but Allen made up for it by running for a touchdown.
Yep.
And then even the second one, I know they didn't complete it, but that is the perfect play call that any defensive coordinator made all year, and Allen still got the ball to the hands of one of his receivers. I mean, sometimes you have a superhuman quarterback that can overcome that. And the Bills have the benefit on the defensive to offensive side of the ball where they don't have a guy like that. If they win the coaching battle today against the Broncos offense, I don't think Bo Nix is overcoming that. Now, the point you made, I think, is right, though. It's not to take away credit from what the path would be from the Bills, and I think the discourse about that's been very weird all week because I just don't think people know what to do with this different type of path where I'm going good defense after maybe, if it's Houston again, another good defense. And that would be impressive, too. Like, if the Bills are able to score 27 points today against a defense that ranks really highly in almost every single category, then that shouldn't be viewed as, well, you beat Bo Nix. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, that's why part of why I'm very confident in today is, like, it's Josh Allen versus Bo Nix.
Right.
But diving in on, like, what they do against the Denver defense, if they're successful doing it. And by the way, I think the quick passing game could be that, because while I said they're really good in almost every category this year defensively, the one area they are not very good, do you know they're 16th in the league on defense in EPA per play against quick passes? They're elite at, like, everything else. They're elite on deep passes. They're elite on the intermediate. They're elite on passes that take a long time to develop. Yep. Which Allen does too.
That's because their pass rush, you can't really do that.
Right.
You can't take 7-step drops, hold the ball, pat the ball against this defensive line.
Quick passes under 2.5 seconds, they're 16th. That might be an area in which you could get them.
18th in EPA versus opposing tight ends.
Okay,
they are 24th in EPA per play against opposing teams' slot receivers.
Okay, and those are all areas. Even the quick game.
Again,
Allen did a lot of quick passes last week against the Jags. Like, to me, there's a lot of these little weaknesses the Denver defense might have that are strengths of the Bills' offense.
Correct. And that's why the Bills' offense is a unique one in the league because of how they win and they try to win. And again, I just think it's not necessarily that I think that this offense is better than the Denver defense, but largely I think that their strengths, again, are either irrelevant to the Bills, the ability to lock down a number one wide receiver, that they're fifth in EPA per play against number one wide receivers because Patrick Surtain's amazing. But, okay, take Brandon Cooks out. He didn't play here for 12 weeks.
That would be my question to you. Would you be confident it's still in today if I told you that they held Cooks catchless?
Sure.
Like, if I get
so.
no Brandon Cooks today because they just decide we're going to take him out of the game, we're still good?
I think so because that means
I would still feel confident. I think it would matter, but I think
it would matter.
But I think it wouldn't get me to worrying about the Bills winning the game.
Be listening for the ECMC halftime show, ECMC Go, where the Bills go. Sal and I will be recapping the key moments of the first half and bringing you up to date on the Skyworks stats of the game. Skyworks Equipment Rental, building America from the ground up. I'm Nate Geary. That's Sneaky Joe DiBiase. It's time for a break. We'll be back in a snap. It's brought to you by Snapdragon Apples, which apparently wins you some free liquor. Sweet. The official apple. In some, yes. Terms and conditions may apply. The official apple of the Buffalo Bills.
When Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored 10 points in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. If you trust... It's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards a carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like 210, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
All right.
And I think that ended up being true for the most part. And listen, when it came down to it, one quarterback made more plays when it mattered. Well, I've got a little something to say, if that's okay, Joe.
All right, go ahead.
Dear Tyrell, this week it's been a difficult one for those in the, quote, Shavers Hive, which I am, of course, the president, founder, and CEO of.
Self-proclaimed.
I just wanted to say how proud we all are of you. the guts, the grit, the glory you showed playing 22 snaps, 22 on a torn ACL. Some of us here in this very room, they questioned whether you could separate regularly. Some of these very same people wondered if all you do is block. But not me, Tyrell. I watched you undress that Jaguars corner in the first quarter of that game last week. I watched you absolutely moss that Eagles defender just 2 weeks before that. I've always known in my heart of hearts, it won't feel right going to Denver without your pancake blocks and vertical separation, but we know you'll be with us in spirit. As Glenn Fry from the Eagles once famously said, we may lose, we may win, but we will never be here again. Rest now, brother. Curtis Samuel, Mecole Hardman, they have the watch. We'll see you on Chippewa.
Wow. I guess am I applauding for this? Am I applauding that? I guess I am.
Yeah, so hard day for me as the Tyrell Shavers truther of the station.
You know, you really made it sound like you went for like 100 yards last week.
I know. He did have one catch.
Yeah.
But
one catch. It was one catch. He was really willing to, really drag that line out about the one catch because it was the only catch.
It was. There would have been more, I fear, if he was able to, plant off of the knee.
Run, horizontally a little bit.
In reality, though, what a story. The
fact he played on a torn
insane.
ACL in the second half is incredible.
It's insane.
I'm in a position and I'm just going for it. Like I said earlier last week, a lot of guys have been in this game for years. We know where the weaknesses and the strengths are, but we just attacking and we just towing that line and being able to make the plays when our numbers is called. And that's what guys are doing right now.
That's the hero from last week, Bills corner Tre'Davious White. Welcome back to Bills Game Day. And Bills Game Day is powered by Anderson Water, Power, and Air. Anderson, tap in to better living. I'm Nate Geary. That's Sneaky Joe DiBiase. We've got a couple minutes here before we take a timeout and kick off to hour 2 of Bills Game Day. Then it'll be Derek and I for countdown to kickoff, and then we've got roundtable action, and then Derek and I will bring you into the booth where we'll kick off today. Joe, I've been it's been one of those weeks. Obviously, after last week, both of us predicted the Bills. We picked the Jaguars last week. I'm getting the sense that just from you, getting the sense from you and the way I felt this week that will be different this week. That we'll likely both pick the Bills to win this game.
I thought I saw the Schefter video today about Denver, from allowing 70 to the 1 seed. And I saw that because they lost 70 against Miami.
Ago.
Right. I saw that and thought, I might pick the Bills to score 70 today. What do we think about a Bills 70, Denver 10 prediction? I probably won't get there.
I doubt they'll get there.
But no, I am way more confident this week. And maybe that's going to get me in trouble. I think really just the week that's gone on, the things that have crossed my desk to be worried about. All right, receiver injuries. All right, I'm not saying it's nothing. We had our poem about Tyrell Shavers a little bit earlier on today.
Poem. I would say it's more of a haiku.
Okay.
A soliloquy.
A haiku is a poem, isn't it?
Yeah, but
it's a form of poem.
It's a form of poem.
Okay, so Shavers and Davis out, but they're not really the guys you're throwing the ball to all that much. Okay, I'm not saying it's nothing, but I'm not worried about it. Jordan Poyer being out. That might be one thing that gets me the closest. But I'd trust a week of prep. Hancock had looked good before last week. I don't think he looked good last week. He got picked on. But earlier in the regular season, there were big plays he made against Carolina that I remember. And after, he was in a rotation, remember, with Poyer before Poyer really started coming on. So, all right, I can get through that. The rest disadvantage.
That's something. That
might be something.
But, and the Bills,
they're on the elevation too, but none of those things are enough for me to change from to get to picking Denver in a game like this.
I will say, too,
none of it's enough.
Every wild card matchup the Bills have had to play has come at a cost. Last week, it's losing 2 receivers and Jordan Poyer. Right. Every year. A couple years ago, it's losing Terrell Bernard. Every one of these wild card games has come at a cost.
Let me ask, what what percentage of Ed Oliver would you need to say that it's a wash injury-wise from last week? You get Samuel back, and you get Oliver back, Poyer out, Shavers and Davis out. Like, how good does Oliver have to be to say net neutral?
80% of himself?
80% out of Oliver, and then it's a net neutral.
It's
different spots that you're getting guys and losing guys, but I'm with you. Like, I think if Oliver is at Oliver, then I think you got about as much back, just maybe in different safety to defensive tackle, than you lost last week.
I also and I don't want to be overly dramatic about it, but if you watch the highlights from the Ravens game and a couple of the games that he was in before the injury happened.
Yes, he had a sack in all 3 games he played this year.
He looked like he was playing at a level that I had not seen Ed Oliver get to before.
Now we got a break, but the thing about Oliver though is he's never made a big difference in playoff games.
No, that's right.
He's played 13 playoff games for this team. Can you remember a single moment?
He will be as fresh as he's ever been in any of these playoff games.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Stay tuned following today's game for the Coaches Podium with head coach Sean McDermott live during the Bills postgame show. Of course, is brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. I'm Nate Geary. That's Sneaky Joe DiBiase. This is Buffalo Bills Game Day. Back in a snap on the other side. It's brought to you by Snapdragon Apple's the official apple of the Buffalo Bills. I think it also would be foolish for the Broncos to just say, we're going to have Patrick Surtain shadow Brandon Cooks. He's not a true -- receiver where you would want to do that. Like, you can take Brandon Cooks out of the game, and I think the Bills, if that was their game plan, and it was just, whether he's in the slot, whether he's on the boundary, Patrick Surtain is glued to Brandon Cooks. I'd say, okay, we'll play 10 on 10.
But then the other thing you're doing, though, if you don't do that and don't have him shadow, then you're allowing the Bills to hide Keon Coleman on Patrick Surtain. And I wouldn't do that if I were the Broncos. Like, to me, I would look at their receivers and say, I'm not going to do it against Shakir because Shakir doesn't really run real routes. Like, he's a glorified running back. He's going to get passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of a waste, I feel like, of his skill set on the other side. So if I look at their receiving core and I think who's the most dangerous person running routes down the field, all the things you'll see in a route tree, then I know he's not a #1 receiver, but right now he's infinitely the most dangerous player in the Bills' offense in that department, and that's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So I would do that, or we did hear Benjamin Albright earlier this week on with Chopin the Bulldog on our flagship WGR, and he made an interesting point that a lot of times this year, because Surtain's a bigger body, right? He's a corner, but he's a good sized corner. That on third downs, if they're playing an offense where the most dangerous player is not a slot, is a tight end, you will see him matched up on the tight end, and they've done it a lot this year. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, oh, so third downs he's covering Kincaid.
Yeah.
So Kincaid and Cooks. If I'm just trying to think of it from the other side, if I'm Denver, he's either covering Cooks or Kincaid. I think you are wasting his talent if he is covering Coleman. Anybody can cover Coleman. It's just whether you can, avoid taking a penalty and avoid getting mossed, basically.
No pun intended. Because Riley Moss is on the other side.
Okay, that's a good one. We should think of that later today if there's one of those plays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, I doubt
you're the first that's made that joke.
No. I'm batting 1,000 this morning.
When Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored like 10 points in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. Like, if you trust, it's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards a carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like Tutin, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
All right.
And I think that ended up being true for the most part. And listen, when it came down to it, one quarterback made more plays when it mattered.
Time to survive and advance once again as the Bills are in Denver for the divisional round to take on the Broncos. Kickoff is set for 4:30 with Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth with full play-by-play action right here on the Buffalo Bills radio network. A quick look at the injury report on the Extra Point Show with Sal on Friday. Sean McDermott ruled out Maxwell Hairston and Jordan Poyer. We'll be awaiting more on the inactives before kickoff. That's your Barnes Firm injury report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. The Bills have activated wide receiver Curtis Samuel and defensive tackle Ed Oliver from injured reserve, and they've elevated wide receiver Mecole Hardman Jr. and running back Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. And for the Broncos, per Sal on X, the Broncos have elevated former Bills wide receiver Elijah Moore, as well as tight end Caleb Lohner from the practice squad. The Sabres getting a mention here, seeing some early action today before Bills-Broncos. They're in action against the Wild with puck drop at 12:30. Pregame is underway as we speak, and you'll be able to catch all of the action over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Around the NFL, the Bills do kick off the divisional round, but following that, the 49ers take on the Seahawks tonight with kickoff at 8 o'clock. Some news there. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports that quarterback Sam Darnold, dealing with that oblique injury sustained in practice, hasn't thrown a football since Thursday, while Drew Lock has been taking the practice reps over the past 2 days. So something to watch for there. Texans-Patriots tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and the Rams and Bears cap it off tomorrow night at 6:30. Some other news around the league. The Giants still expected to sign former Ravens head coach John Harbaugh to a 5-year contract to be their next head coach. The Chargers will interview former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel for their offensive coordinator vacancy. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Packers are working on a contract extension with head coach Matt LaFleur. And following Bills versus Broncos, Joe Brady will interview for a few head coaching jobs as well with the Ravens. This sports update is brought to you by Fico Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. Now for a look at your Denver weather. Brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet. Score big with new Chevys and quality pre-owned vehicles from Paddock Chevrolet. We're looking at a game-time temperature of around 34 degrees. No chance of precipitation. The high for the day is 38. I'm Joe Cali for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network.
All right, welcome back to Hour 2. Well, I guess technically Hour 3 because we had Bills Game Day with Derek earlier on. But I'm Nate Geary. That's Sneaky Joe DiBiase. We're getting you ready for the 4:30 p.m. kick, AFC Divisional Round kick between the Bills and the Denver Broncos with Chris Brown and Eric Wood calling the play-by-play from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. Today's broadcast is presented by Delta Sonic Car Wash. It started out with a kiss. And it's, of course, time now for Bills Game Day. It's powered by Anderson Water, Power, and Air. Anderson, tap in to better living.
In programming note, again, reminder, if you are looking for the Sabres game against the Wild,
Yes.
that's over on the Bet 1520.
Correct.
That starts at 12:30, 25 minutes. Nice little appetizer for Bills Broncos a little bit later on. I may have or may not have bet both teams to win today. Double victory Saturday. I wish this game was tomorrow. I could have used the buffer day.
I'm good with it being
You'd rather
today.
have it right away?
Because I'm going to enjoy my Sunday for the first time in a long time.
Well,
Maybe.
If they lose, you won't. You're gonna want to watch football if they lose?
Probably.
Not as much.
I will say,
Not
like,
as much.
I'll
I'll be way more engaged if they win today.
I have watched a collective 35 minutes of college football,
Okay.
like in the playoffs. Like, I watched the end of the A&M Miami game.
Okay.
I watched part of that Indiana game, but it was a blowout. Like, they really haven't been good games.
You get a lot of blowouts.
But, Notre Dame wasn't in it. So I guess if I would apply that same logic, like, okay, well, Notre
there you
Dame's
go.
not in it, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't want to watch. But the last couple of years with NHL playoffs, I've started to come around to watching hockey in
Even though the Sabres aren't in
April,
it.
May, and June. It's been really hard, though, because it's just is like, okay, well, I'm just so used to the season being over in November that hockey's off the tray for me by April. And it's kind of more, I'm watching the Knicks and I'm waiting for the NBA basketball.
Yeah, I will say, like, depending on what happened, this is very secondary to everything that happens today. If depending on the Bills win or lose, it will change who I root for tomorrow in the other AFC game. Now, if the Bills lose,
you want the Patriots.
I want the Texans to win because I don't need New England going to. At that point, it's all about New England just not going, right? It's what everything is about then. Because them going and you losing the divisional round, that'll sting. But to me, priority one is whatever gives the Bills the best chance to reach the Super Bowl. And I'm putting all the New England feelings about, like, well, what would it feel like if you lost to them aside in the name of, I think that's the better matchup for the Bills in the AFC Championship game. So if the Bills win today, I will be rooting for New England to win tomorrow. I would rather play New England.
I think I'm rooting for Houston either way.
Yeah? You think they're a better matchup?
Here's maybe not the matchup, but here's my ideology behind this. Here's my, well, I shouldn't say ideology. Here is my philosophy behind this. Is Houston's not a disguising defense. They literally run, like, they're sort of like the Joe Brady of defenses. They run a handful of plays. They do them really well. And they say, that's no frills. We're going to line up four. We're going to rush you, and we feel like we're going to get after you. We're going to run zone behind it. We can run man if we want to. But otherwise, good luck. Mm-hmm. And I think the Bills getting a second chance at that team, knowing that the first time they'd really just lost one-on-one battles on the edges, that, okay, well, now we've got to dedicate another blocker. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. But, like,
just chip.
We feel that, I am so unafraid of that offense.
Well, would it also, maybe I wonder, because Denver's defense is very highly ranked and Jacksonville's defense was very highly ranked. If they have beaten Denver after beating Jacksonville, will that make people more confident that they will have the answers against Houston because they have just gone through two high-level defenses?
I think so.
I guess that could change my opinion, too. I mean, I think Houston's defensive line is better than Denver's.
Yeah.
Denver did lead the league in sacks, but Jeremy had this earlier in the week. They piled up sacks against, like, three guys. Like, Justin Fields and Geno Smith were, like, half their sacks on the season. So, like, are they as good as Houston? I don't think so. They're still great, but the other thing I heard a lot about what Denver does pass rush-wise this week is they are very aggressive with their lanes, and that has allowed them to get more sacks this year. Are they going to do that today?
I don't think so.
If the thing that gets them those pressures is they're nuts, they'll go around the edge and they'll open up lanes for the quarterback to run. The quarterback, you usually don't want to do that against Josh Allen.
I thought that's why they didn't really have a huge impact in the playoff game. Is they kind of
last year
Kyle Van Noy was on another podcast. I forget the name of the podcast, but he was saying, like, if we could go back to week one all over again, he's like, I think we would have just played patty cake and said, we're going to stay here. We're not going to get upfield. We're going to force Josh Allen to beat us from the pocket, because where he really beats teams is when he extends plays and moves out of the pocket. The only problem with that is if you leave him in the pocket and let him extend plays from there, I think he can have the same effect as if he's moving to his right or to his left.
Right.
So again, it's with Josh Allen. You pick your poison. We'll see. Steve Spagnuolo is not on the other sideline today. and I do think that plays something for the Bills.
Right. Vance Joseph is on the other
He's
side.
He's going to get some head coaching looks, but I'm not,
I mean, they've got some nice players. I mean,
they do.
The one difference I would say about Denver from last week, Jacksonville, is I think the coordinator, Campanelli, was getting a lot of credit for Jacksonville last week. The thing, though, they didn't really have were individual players that scared me. Right? Like, Devin Lloyd a little bit, but there really wasn't that guy on that side of the ball for Jacksonville. It was more about the collective. They were very much a 111th defense.
Yeah.
Denver, it's a little more of, I got a couple guys that intimidate me. I've got Zach Allen up front. I have got Dre Greenlaw on the second level, and Hufanga, the safety. Man,
he's really good.
He'll jump routes. Maybe that gets him in trouble today.
He's really good.
Does Allen bait him into, you think you're getting a pick 15 yards? I'm going to put it over your head now.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of game he has. And then Surtain, obviously, who is the best corner in football. So they've got 3 or 4 individuals that I think are the type of guys that could break a game open on that side of the ball. But it's still, again, all this is not enough for me to really lose confidence. I think the Bills' defense today is going to have a day. What if I told you Denver? We had a caller the other day call and say, like, I could see, or actually it wasn't a caller, it was we had a guest on from Denver, and he predicted the Broncos were going to win like 27-24. And after he was out, I thought, how are they? Let's say they score 27. What does it look like? What would Denver scoring 27 today look like? Because I have a really hard time seeing it.
I do too. I think it's largely because people in Denver have been looking at this Bills defense, and I think largely looking at the sum of it, like the whole of it, rather than what they've done over the last month. I think the turning point for this defense was in the second half of that Patriots game.
Okay, but again, so what does that equate to? They think they're going to throw the ball all over the Bills? They think they're going to run it all day with R.J. Harvey? Like what would a Denver 27-point output look like? I can't really imagine it. It would be Nix.
Yeah.
It would be Bo Nix, like just channeling some inner dog that he has in him that Trevor Lawrence didn't, and that carries them to a giant day through the air. Like it almost would be like some version of the Tebow Pittsburgh game, I feel like, in 2011 in the playoffs. Like this quarterback, Nix is better than Tebow, but this quarterback that you don't think is really that good, and then he just channels something inside him that is better. But even that, like I looked back on Bo Nix's like college resume and include that with last year's playoff game and like bowl games, conference championships, last year's playoffs game against the Bills. Like he doesn't really ascend in these big games. Like he had one good bowl game in his college career, and his college career was like 10 years. So is he actually that guy? Like I can't get myself to believe that Denver is going to score today. It's all about that side of the ball today for me is my confidence. I think the Bills offense can do enough, but it's all about, I think, McDermott and Babbage and getting Oliver back. Like they're going to have the answers for Denver.
803-0550 is the number to call. Let's get connected with our fans. Powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills. And go to Rocco in East Aurora. Thanks for hanging on hold. Rocco, you're on with Nate and Sneaky Joe here on Buffalo Bills Game Day. What do you got? Oh, yeah, you got to. Sorry, Rocco. Go ahead.
When I was on hold, I was actually looking how many times I've called. Long-time listener, checking my notes, is all-time 69-time call. So I just wanted to touch base about Ed Oliver. So who's the guy? He does the dance and he does the injury stuff. The thigh guy.
For who?
For the Bills. The guy with the big thighs. He does that weird dance.
I don't know who we're talking about.
Anyway, well, he's on X. So, anyways, he said that Milano took 15 weeks to come back from this injury, and now Ed Oliver's only 12 weeks. So I was wondering what you guys thought. Like, A, it seems like it's risky, but B, like, is he going to be effective? And then if there's attrition in the D tackle room, like, is he going to get thrust into more action? I'm just like, I'm super gassed up that he's in there, but I'm a little nervous. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to predict what he'll be. I don't think the Bills would put him out there unless they could believe he's somewhat effective.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Is he going to be effective, though, in certain things more than others? Is he going to be a more effective run defender today than pass rusher? Like, can he swim move the way he does? Like, I think those are things that only the Bills would know right now, and maybe we'll learn about them, like, the moment the game starts. Like, watching him closely on that first drive. How much he's playing at all, right? Like, is he playing half the snaps, or is he playing a quarter of them? I mean, at some degree, he's going to be in the rotation. But, yeah, I guess I don't know. Like, you're right to bring up Milano, but Milano, that you might think, I don't know, what's a bicep injury worse for, a linebacker or a defensive tackle?
Yeah, I don't know.
You might even argue defensive tackle.
Maybe, yeah.
But fighting through it, like, I don't know. I think Oliver could be a really impactful player in this game. I don't want to say that, definitively because I just don't know what he's going to look like. But the fact that they're putting him out there makes me think that he's got something for him.
I would agree with that, and I don't think that they're going to, especially at Oliver, who he is and how important he is to the organization. If there was a concern that he could do long-term damage by putting himself out there, to me, it was more telling that the injury report says bicep and doesn't say knee. That was the thing I was thinking. I was thinking what's going to hold him back is the meniscus cleanup, and that's not even as a listed injury on the injury report.
That's because that's what worried everybody when McDermott gave an injury update about a setback a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't about the bicep; it was about the meniscus. So,
let's go back to the phones. Mark in Denver, who's hanging out. Mark, you're on with Nate and Sneaky Joe here.
You going to the game?
Hey, how we doing, fellas? Good morning.
Good
morning.
We got 8 lads from a small town called Pittsford, New York, and Denver for the game today.
Nice.
I just want to let everyone know that's listening out in the tailgate at Mile High. That's Bills fans, and they're here. Everyone else is here with you. Don't be afraid to be loud. We're going to get the hell after it. We're going to run the ball down their damn throat. Go Bills.
Love it. Thanks for the call, Mark. Yeah.
They're going to run it today?
They're going to have to. Right? I think they're going to have to.
James Cook last week against the Jags, who we knew were a good run defense going into the game, had 15 carries for 46 yards. This Denver defense, run defense, I think is third by DVOA in the NFL this season. So I think they'll try to run it. I guess it is a good question as to whether they will actually be able to. Again, part of last week that gives me confidence, though, is that they didn't run it and they still scored 27 points.
Yeah.
So if Allen can be typical Allen playoffs, I don't think you'll have to run the ball. But I would agree. Like, I think their plan coming in will be, let's get physical, let's put Jackson Hawes on the field, and let's see if we can establish a ground game.
I just think, it's funny. I do think these two teams, the Bills they're going to play back-to-back in Jacksonville and Denver, are very similar teams. Except for the fact that I fear the Jaguars' offense more.
Yeah, same. Definitely.
That's it. I think they are grossly similar. Like, defensively, their numbers are pretty close to the same. Offensively, here's the thing that I think skews this in favor of Denver over the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars were one of the hottest offenses in football towards the end of the season, the last 6 to 8 weeks of the year, where their total numbers were kind of more middle of the pack. I think 11th in total offense, 12th in passing. The Broncos are 10th in total offense and 11th in passing offense. So, and the Jaguars were 18th in rushing, the Denver's 16th. Like, they almost, I barely have to change my notes for this game. Like, they are just so close in what they do in terms of just, yards per game and all that good stuff. So I think I just look at, and I think the quarterbacks are very similar in their strengths and their weaknesses. I think both are very mobile. Both are not really battle-tested. I know that Trevor Lawrence won a national championship, and that counts definitely for something. But he crumbled when the moment was big on Sunday.
Right, and they both played, Bo Nix played the one playoff game last year against the Bills and did nothing. And Lawrence had played 2 playoff games, one half of which was horrendous, and then the second game he didn't take advantage of an opportunity when the Jags had an injured Mahomes. So, yeah, it's the second tier or even third tier of quarterback. Bo Nix this year, maybe he's playing better down the stretch, but he was the first quarterback in the NFL to lead the league in pass attempts and not reach 4,000 yards since Brett Favre in 2006.
Yeah.
He was not... He threw it a lot, but that was out of necessity because they couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
I do not believe that he is something to really be that afraid of. I think he's a game
good
manager
player.
Level quarterback that's got some legs.
He's perfect for Sean Payton's offense.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sean Payton's offense kind of just featured when they were really good, had Drew Brees, who did not really have the big arm, and he threw it up to Marquise Colston. It's very
slants,
to me, it's very similar.
All those slants to Marquise Colston.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
It's a very similar, and it's not meant to be a knock on Bo Nix or this offense either. To be clear.
Well, he's not. The one difference between Nix and Lawrence is I don't think Nix is the talent level that Lawrence is. Right?
I would agree.
Like Lawrence hasn't put it together, but Lawrence has got it all. He's got the arm, he's got the size, he's got the legs for it. Like Nix is like, he's got fine. He's fine. He's fine. He's just a guy. That's to me what Bo Nix is. He's not really terrible maybe in anything, but he's not really anyone that jumps off the page in any certain, aspect of his game. I'm not afraid of him whipping the ball down the field. I'm not running the ball. He's good, but he's not Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not, Justin Fields for that. He doesn't have an elite trait there. He's size-wise, he's middle of the pack. He's just a middle of the pack quarterback.
Yeah.
He's your perfect default 80 overall Madden quarterback.
The 6.4 yards per attempt is really low. I mean, it's really low.
Again, he had 600 attempts this year.
Yeah.
So when you look at some of the numbers, like the context is, he threw the ball a ton.
But again, that's, I think, in large part because they use their short passing game as an extension
of the run game.
Let's go to Jonathan in California. Jonathan, you're on Bill's Game Day. Good morning. I'm sorry. Good afternoon.
No, we still got morning out here.
All right, perfect. Even better.
Well, good. Hey, out on our morning run. Hey, first, I want to say good morning to my Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary in Lewiston. Been saying I'm going to call them off a little bit. But, hey, anyways, you were talking about the schedule before for Jacksonville. And, I think the holds merit. Remember, the Bills in this situation because we have two horrible losses to Atlanta and, Miami?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But, I looked at the other games. I think we overlooked those games. I don't care what anyone says. And then Atlanta was a short week. But you look at the other games, again, games we should be ready that we lost, they went down to the wire. All right. Now, Denver, they beat who they're supposed to beat. But I look at that Jacksonville game, and that's the one I circle.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, we talked about it, but does anyone really drill down and look to see what Jacksonville did to beat them so bad? And that's all I got. Go Bills.
Yeah, I don't think they did anything particularly special in that game.
I watched a lot of the Jacksonville game against Denver.
Yes.
I think they challenged Denver over the middle of the field a lot. And I think they were able to win at that second level, which maybe they didn't have Dre Greenlaw, though, for that game. Is that one difference, maybe?
Yes, but here's what I'll say about Dre Greenlaw is...
He's still a good player, but he's not as good as he was.
I know Sean Payton didn't want to have the conversation, but he's a downhill run defender. To me, he is not... I think that the biggest difference between Alex Singleton and potentially Dre Greenlaw at linebacker this year, opposed to what they had on at linebacker last year, is they've upgraded their ability to get downhill and stop the run. They've downgraded their ability to stop the pass, and that's really where I think Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid and hopefully a healthy Ty Johnson can really get after these linebackers in the pass game. That's why you mentioned Benjamin Albright talking about Patrick Surtain on third down situations, moving down to cover a tight end.
Right.
Here's my issue: like you can cover Dalton Kincaid. I've been pleasantly surprised over the last really more than a month where Dawson Knox has been reintroduced to this offense as a primary pass catcher. He's done a nice job. He's got one drop in that span, a bad one, but I look at it and I say they're two tight ends in terms of pass catchers, and that goes without saying that Spencer Hawes is in there, Jackson Hawes. Damn
Hawes.
It. All year. At least once a damn
No
broadcast.
one else will confuse him with a backup center in the NBA for 10 years like you will.
No chance.
The other thing that I'm looking more about that Jaguars and Broncos game and remembering things that I saw about it. I watched a lot of that game before last week. And the other thing that the Broncos had a lot of trouble with, and maybe this goes in line with that stat I gave you in the first hour, that the Broncos, 16th in the league this year on defense against quick passes. They got torched by yak plays against Jacksonville. Parker Washington had 6 catches for 145 yards in that game. 91 of them were yards after catch. He broke free and broke a couple of tackles and got big plays. And to me, like Parker Washington and Khalil Shakir are not that bad of a comparison between the two. So, if you want to think of a way to get them, ready for it?
Yes.
Maybe today is the day screens work.
They worked last week.
They also worked last week. It's going to be amazing, isn't it? If after being so frustrated by
that it's the
screen game all year that they win 2 playoff games in part because of it.
That would be funny.
But maybe this is a day where the Bills go in thinking this is the team to run screens against. The one counter to that, though, is you lost your two best receiving blockers on those plays, and do you trust Keon Coleman to take out the corner, and instead of a 3-yard gain, it's 20-yard gain? And I don't know what the Bills think of that. Will they want to throw a tight end out there? Because you might be telegraphing what you're doing if, oh, look, what's Reggie Gilliam doing out at the X receiver position? It's probably a screen, huh? What is Jackson Hawes doing out there? Like, I don't know what their plan would be. Maybe Knox and Kincaid, because they are somewhat of a receiving threat at the same time as better blockers than McCole Hardman would be, or maybe Curtis Samuel would be, that you see more of them split out wide in this game. But this is where like a healthy Kincaid could really help you, right? Because if I told you Kincaid was absolutely healthy, that'd be my plan today. He's going to line up a receiver a lot, and he's going to run routes, but also because he's a tight end, and him blocking corners, I can win that matchup.
I think so. I agree.
But are you going to want to throw Kincaid out there to block 9 screen passes when he's dealing with injuries, like on,
maybe not.
On both the upper body and lower body? Like,
maybe not.
I just don't know if you want to throw that on his plate.
Be listening for the ECMC halftime show. ECMC, go where the Bills go. Sal and I will be recapping the key moments of the first half and bring you up to date on the Skyworks stats of the game. Skyworks Equipment Rental, building America from the ground up. A quick programming note just based on some of the timing. Sal Capaccio is going to join myself and Derek Kramer in the 1 o'clock hour for Bills countdown to kickoff. So we will not have him for Bills Game Day here this segment. Time for a break. We'll be back in a snap. It's brought to you by Snapdragon Apple, the official Apple of the Buffalo Bills.
When Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored like 10 points in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. Like, if you trust... It's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards a carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like Tutin, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
All right.
And I think that ended up being true for the most part. And listen, when it came down to it, one quarterback made more plays when it mattered. Well, I've got a little something to say, if that's okay, Joe.
All right, go ahead.
Dear Tyrell, this week it's been a difficult one for those in the, quote, Shavers Hive, which I am, of course, the president, founder, and CEO of.
Self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed. I just wanted to say how proud we all are of you. The guts, the grit, the glory you showed playing 22 snaps. 22 on a torn ACL. Some of us here in this very room, they questioned whether you could separate regularly. Some of these very same people wondered if all you do is block. But not me, Tyrell. I watched you undress that Jaguars corner in the first quarter of that game last week. I watched you absolutely moss that Eagles defender just 2 weeks before that. I've always known in my heart of hearts. It won't feel right going to Denver without your pancake blocks and vertical separation, but we know you'll be with us in the spirit. As Glenn Fry from the Eagles once famously said, we may lose, we may win.
Time to survive and advance once again as the Bills are in Denver for the divisional round to take on the Broncos. Kickoff set for 4:30. Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio will be on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. And full play-by-play action will be right here on the Buffalo Bills Radio Network. Quick look at the injury report on the Extra Point Show with Sal on Friday. Sean McDermott ruled out Maxwell Hairston and Jordan Poyer. We'll be awaiting more on the inactives before kickoff. That's your Barnes Firm injury report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-million. Couple elevations and activations for the Bills as they've activated wide receiver Curtis Samuel, defensive tackle Ed Oliver from injured reserve, and they've elevated wide receiver McCole Hardman Jr. and running back Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. And for the Broncos, per Sal on X, they've elevated former Bills wide receiver Elijah Moore, as well as tight end Caleb Lohner from the practice squad. The Sabres seeing some early action today before Bills-Broncos. They're in action against the Wild and just about to get underway. You'll be able to catch all the action over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Around the NFL, the Bills do kick off the divisional round, and following that, 49ers, Seahawks tonight with kickoff at 8 o'clock. Some news with that game, though. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold dealing with an oblique injury, hasn't thrown a football since Thursday, while Drew Lock has taken the practice reps over the past 2 days. So something to look for there. The Texans take on the Patriots tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and the Rams and the Bears cap it off tomorrow night at 6:30. Some other news around the NFL, the coaching carousel underway. The Giants still expected to sign former Ravens head coach John Harbaugh to a 5-year contract to be their next head coach. The Chargers will interview former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel for their offensive coordinator vacancy. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Packers are working on a contract extension for head coach Matt LaFleur. This sports update is brought to you by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. Now for a look at your Denver weather, brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet. Score big with new Chevys and quality pre-owned vehicles from Paddock Chevrolet. We're looking at a game time temperature of right around 34 degrees. No chance of precipitation, and the high for today is 38. I'm Joe Kelly for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network.
I think Marvin Mims is an intriguing player here. He's not a volume target, but he's kind of their movement receiver. He kind of is their line up anywhere in the formation receiver, and he does have some speed. So you have to be careful with him, because look, the last thing any defense wants to do is give up, the 50-yard touchdowns. And obviously the Bills are structured in such a way because of that two shell that they play in a sense top down, and they normally don't let people get behind them. That's kind of how it's structured. But I think Mims is just a guy, like I said, it's not as if he's going to get 12 targets, but I think you just got to be careful about him.
There's Greg Cosell early this week on One Bills Live on his weekly segment. Welcome back to Bills Game Day. It's powered by Anderson Water Power and Air. Anderson, tap into better living. I'm Nate Geary. That's Sneaky Joe DiBiase. He makes a good point about Marvin Mims. I actually might argue that the guy I'd be more fearful of is Troy Franklin. He's a little bit more of an everything receiver, can do everything. Mm-hmm. I thought it was notable that, do you remember what the first play of the game last week was?
The first play of the game.
Parker Washington end around that Matt Milano stops for a -3 gain.
Yep, sounds familiar. Yep.
And I thought, oh man, I'm sure Liam Cohen was just licking his chops to have that be their first play call of the game, just to steal 8, 10, 15 yards, because the Bills had been getting killed with that play. I want to go back to maybe it was the Eagles. Was it the Eagles? They ran it 4 times, 5 times. Maybe it wasn't the Eagles, but it was in that.
I know what you're thinking. Was it Cleveland?
Might have been the Patriots.
Somebody did it over and
Cleveland,
over.
Cleveland, I think, might have did it to him a bunch of times too.
Cleveland did it, yeah.
That play has killed the Bills because the Bills, for what it's worth, the edges have been their. When teams run inside, I think the Bills do a good job. It's when they can get outside, when Joey Bosa gets washed. He really struggled last week.
Cleveland, Malachi Corley, who was that player for them, he had 3 carries for 30 yards.
Yes.
So he did it, and maybe there was Harold Fannin had a carry in that game. Isaiah Bond had
averaging
a carry in
10
that
yards
game.
a play on that play.
Yes, they were trying it.
Yes.
And Corley was the one having success. So, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I did see some numbers that the Broncos are a better running team outside zone, and when they are testing, the edges a little bit. So maybe that's a place they'll try and attack today. Where are the Bills out on that front? To me, athleticism at linebacker, maybe you're trading that a little bit for the play you're getting out of Shaq Thompson and Matt Milano inside, because they're a better run defense when those two are on the field.
Agreed.
So, I could say, one way you could counter those edges is, you get a faster linebacker on the field, which would be Dorian Williams, or even if Terrell Bernard's healthy. But I don't want those two.
I don't know what I'm expecting. Terrell Bernard's an interesting point. We'll talk to Sal at 1:00. I don't know what to expect from him. I think he's going to play.
You do?
I think he's going to.
In what capacity? Because I think he's just a backup today.
I was going to say, I should amend what I just said. I think he's going to be in the lineup.
Yeah, I think he'll be active.
I don't know that he's going to play.
Where would you want him on the field?
Third downs?
What situation?
Third downs. I mean, he is a better pass defender than Shaq Thompson is.
So he's your third down Mike linebacker instead of Thompson?
Yeah.
That seems like a position they don't like to rotate like that sometimes, though.
So you mentioned how last year they would fire Matt Milano on those.
Right.
I think that's a Dorian Williams thing.
Well, Dorian Williams, I agree. And he's been kind of their Michael Hoyt replacement.
Yes.
Right? He's lining up on the line. He's pass rushing. He is what you mentioned, he's spying. It is funny, interesting, that last play against Jacksonville, the interception by Cole Bishop. See how they lined up on that play? Mm-hmm. They only had 3 linemen.
Yes.
And they've
been running 3-3-5.
They had 3 linebackers,
yes.
Right? And actually, it was Thompson was the one who came up and was spying. Now, they might have been doing that just as part of their disguising and confusing. Maybe Lawrence thought Williams would be the spy, and they surprised him by making Thompson it, and Williams went out covering the running back. So, I don't know either. But I don't think Bernard plays a lot. Maybe he's your third linebacker when you're playing base today. On the weak side, I think he's your immediate backup for probably both Thompson and Milano.
Yep.
But I'd be surprised if he plays a good chunk. I think they've been getting good results out of the Thompson-Milano combo, and Williams playing in a different sort of role.
Let's get connected with our fans, powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills. Larry and Clarence, you're on Bills Game Day. Good afternoon, Larry.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How we doing today?
Good.
I'm telling you, I was way more scared playing Jacksonville last week than Denver this week. I think they're an extremely overrated team. Bo Nix, 7 games where he threw under 200 yards. He's a game manager at best. At least last week with Jacksonville, you can say that their offense was explosive. I just don't see it. They struggled against a whole bunch of terrible teams. Honestly, they kind of remind me, if you look at the college football or take a college football route, they kind of remind me of a Tulane or James Madison. Had a great season in a weak conference. Weak conferences deserve to be in the college football playoffs, but when they got there, just get blown out. I think they're extremely overrated. I think Denver's defense is extremely overrated. There's a reason they got a ton of sacks, a ton of stats against some terrible teams. I see this kind of playing out like the way that when they played them last year. I know we're on the road, but I see it a game where it's going to be a very much a no-sweat game. And I see them winning by, 2, even 3 possessions.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Larry. I think I saw a stat somewhere that this is the first time in NFL history that the reigning MVP will face off against the reigning Defensive Player of the Year in Surtain and Allen.
Okay.
And, I think that's a better matchup to look at than Knicks versus Allen because, I don't have to explain football to everybody. They're not on the field at the same time. So last year, the Bills, I thought, really got the better. I also saw a stat from Chris Brown. Talked about the teams that faced off against each other in back-to-back seasons in the NFL. 13 of those 19 matchups, the team that won the year prior won again the following year. One team has played on the road the previous year and then went and played that same team at home and have won.
The Denver defense last year, by the way, had a similar reputation, similar ranking. So
one of
this
the best
year,
defenses in football.
This year in DVOA, the Denver defense ranks overall. And that, by the way, the reason I'm giving you that one instead of like total defense, caller mentioned like the schedule. So this does factor in who you played, how strong the offenses were you played, and they ranked fifth in the NFL.
This year?
This year. That was their ranking this year. Last year, guess what they were?
Second?
Fifth.
Oh.
Exact same. They were fifth last year. They were fifth this year. What did the Bills' offense do to them? They broke them open. Remember, though, it did take a while.
It did.
Remember the Allen touchdown to Ty Johnson? That was late in the third quarter on a 4th and 1.
And it was 10-7 Bills?
10-7. They were late. If that foot, remember the play, Ty Johnson's foot was like barely in bounds. They reviewed it for a really long time. Imagine, just for a second, that Ty Johnson's foot was like half a centimeter further towards the sidelines. It's out of bounds. The Denver defense at that point would have been going into the fourth quarter allowing 10 points.
Yeah.
It took a while. They did get there, though. And they broke it open in part because of a big play they hit against Patrick Surtain. Remember Curtis Samuel on his big touchdown? He was lined up in the middle, and Surtain had followed him there. And Samuel beat him on a long crosser and then obviously took it to the end zone after that. So, you can look at last year's game, and I think there's a little bit of both. That defense was the same ranking, and you found a way to beat them. But at the same time, it did take into the fourth quarter before you really found a way to do that.
All right, time for a break. We'll be back in a snap. It's brought to you by Snapdragon Apples, the official apple of the Buffalo Bills. I think it also would be foolish for the Broncos to just say, we're going to have Patrick Surtain shadow Brandon Cooks. He's not a true number one receiver where you would want to do that. You can take Brandon Cooks out of the game, and I think the Bills, if that was their game plan, and it was just, whether he's in the slot, whether he's on the boundary, Patrick Surtain is glued to Brandon Cooks. I'd say, okay, we'll play 10 on 10.
But then the other thing you're doing, though, if you don't do that and don't have him shadow, then you're allowing the Bills to hide Keon Coleman on Patrick Surtain. And I wouldn't do that if I were the Broncos. To me, I would look at their receivers and say, I'm not going to do it against Shakir because Shakir doesn't really run real routes. He's a glorified running back. He's going to get passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of a waste, I feel like, of his skill set on the other side. So if I look at their receiving core and I think who's the most dangerous person running routes down the field, all the things you'll see in a route tree, then I know he's not a number one receiver, but right now he's infinitely the most dangerous player in the Bills' offense in that department, and that's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So I would do that, or we did hear Benjamin Albright earlier this week on with Chopin the Bulldog on our flagship WGR, and he made an interesting point that a lot of times this year, because Surtain's a bigger body, right? He's a corner, but he's a good sized corner. That on third downs, if they're playing an offense where the most dangerous player is not a slot, is a tight end, you will see him matched up on the tight end, and they've done it a lot this year. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, so third downs he's covering Kincaid.
Yeah.
So Kincaid and Cooks. If I'm just trying to think of it from the other side, if I'm Denver, he's either covering Cooks or Kincaid. I think you are wasting his talent if he is covering Coleman. Anybody can cover Coleman. It's just whether you can, avoid taking a penalty and avoid getting mossed, basically.
No pun intended. Because Riley Moss is on the other side.
Okay, that's a good one. We should think of that later today if there's one of those plays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, I doubt
you're the first that's made that joke.
No. I'm batting 1,000 this morning.
When Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored 10 points.
Right.
in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. Like, if you trust, it's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards a carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like Tutin, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they, they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
All right.
And I think that ended up being true for the most part. And listen, when it came down to it, one quarterback made more plays when it mattered.
It's not a lot of time, but, with the rehab and everything we had going on, I think I did a good job of kind of staying in semi-good shape and just, keeping a good football mind about myself. So I got the time that I got, and I'm happy to have that.
There's Bills defensive tackle Ed Oliver making his return to the lineup this afternoon against the Denver Broncos, and thank God. Bills Game Day is powered by Anderson Water Power and Air. Anderson, tap in to better living. I'm excited to see Ed Oliver back in the lineup, Joe. I will admit that.
Did I see pictures of him standing on a horse, by the way, in the last couple days?
I think he does that.
Was that recent?
No, I think it's not a recent one.
It's probably smart. Yeah.
I would imagine that the week before coming back from injury that he wouldn't be
standing on a horse. Who is it? Like the Dothraki in Game of Thrones when they're like riding into battle, standing on it. Yeah.
Probably
we'll see.
For the best, yeah.
I think it's a big thing. He, as I mentioned, he's not had any big playoff moment, and he's played 13. He goes back to the Houston playoff game for them.
Yeah.
And it's 2 sacks, one in the Miami game against Skylar Thompson, and then one against the Chiefs in the 13-second game, and I can't even say I remember what that one was. So we'll see. I don't know if he'll be up to it. I mean, really, if you even just told me today that he will help them in the run game, I would take that. That position has been very inconsistent this year. Deion Walker, a 4th-round rookie, has maybe been their best player.
Yes.
And that's good news for him, but it also says something about the position.
I also think it's what I'm most excited to see now is him and Deion Walker on the field at the same time, especially on third downs. That's really where I'm seeing, when I'm closing my eyes and imagining what this game looks like for Ed Oliver, it's that he's out there on third down scenarios and situations with Deion Walker on the interior. And, man, I'll tell you, I think what that does, especially knowing Deion Walker can eat up 2 blocks, and then also get his hands up in passing lanes against a shorter quarterback. I think that just allows Ed Oliver to just go get after the passer.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we'll see. Because is he in a place where some of these packages on third down where Dorian Williams is on the field, he's the 4th lineman.
Yep.
You're not taking Bosa off, and you're not taking Rousseau off. So is Oliver healthy enough to replace Walker as the one tackle that you'll have on the field, or maybe you'll use both?
It's possible. You could use both, yeah. All right, let's go to the phones, grab one more phone call before we kick over to Countdown to kick off. Let's go to John in Rochester, who's been waiting patiently. John, you're on with Nate and Sneaky Joe on Bills Game Day. Welcome.
Hey, guys. Big game today. Nate, I agree with you on McDermott. I know he's getting a lot of pressure nationally and even locally about how he's handling his team, and people are trying to undermine him. I agree with you. I think the guy's done a phenomenal job with this team. My second question is this, and I want to get your comments on that, but my second question is, I think Brandon Cooks has become the number one receiver for the Bills. I was so impressed with him against Jacksonville. I think he could be the key to the game today. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for the call, John. We talked about this a little bit like early on in the and Sabres just gave up a goal, a sloppy one by UPL.
Yeah, I think Cooks, I wouldn't call him their number one receiver, but I would say he is their number one receiver when it comes to traditional pass plays.
Yes.
Shakir is a guy you manufacture touches to. It's around the line of scrimmage. And also, like, this is why I said earlier I would put Surtain on Cooks, because Shakir, like, even when he makes an impact, like last week he had 12 catches on 12 targets, right? That was the fewest amount of receiving yards in a game, in a playoff game, ever in the NFL, with 12 catches by a lot. So I'm not saying he had a bad game. He was fine. He was effective. He got some big plays for them on screens, on third downs. But honestly, if I'm Denver and you told me today that Khalil Shakir is going to have 12 catches for 82 yards, I would take that. That's not him killing me. It's a good, effective day, but it's not him killing me. And if I compare, Shakir gets 80 yards on a bunch of catches and Cooks doesn't do anything, then I feel like I've won if I have Denver. So I don't know. Getting him free a couple of plays down the field, I think he's very important. It's amazing that we've got this point, and he is important.
Yeah.
But I think he is.
He is one of their more consequential offensive players. And listen, I think, last week, James Cook did not have the impact that I thought he was going to have. Like in my parlay last week, I had him, with 80 plus yards in this game or in that matchup against the Jaguars. And listen, that was a very good number one rush defense in the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the number 2 rush defense, but they haven't really faced a rushing attack like the Bills, like all season. Wow, Sabres score right back with
on a very gross goal as well.
Both goals pretty gross. So it's now 1-1. And if you want to pop over during our breaks, Sabres and Wild are actually on our sister station, the Bet 1520.
And there's going to be some controversy here because there was kind of a fight going on while the Sabres came down and scored the goal, but they didn't blow the whistle. So there's that. Zucker gets the one. Yep, Bet 1520 if you're looking for it. I'm confident.
We've got, I don't know what, we've got 3 minutes or so, Joe. I guess we should probably get our predictions in for this game.
All right, I'm going with it. 70. No, I'm just kidding. I do like the Bills defensively in this game a lot. I think offensively, they will, between the run game, I think being a little bit better than Jacksonville, and also having the passing offense looking the way it did last week, I would feel comfortable saying that the Bills are going to win this game by a score of 24-14. I don't think Denver's going to do much.
24-14.
I don't think Denver's going to do much on offense today.
I've also got the Bills in this game. I'm going to take the Bills. I had the Bills winning 28-27. I do think Denver will get some points in this game, but I think this is going to come down to a play late. And if it's coming down to a play late, I just like Josh Allen in his ability late in these games. And I know Bo Nix has been right up there with other quarterbacks in the NFL late in these games, clutch time, late in the fourth quarter. I think he's got 10 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But right now, this Bills offense, this Bills team, there's really been nobody better in the league this year in the fourth quarter when trailing than Josh Allen. I hope the Bills aren't trailing, but, we'll see. Who is, we usually do the who just needs to get results. Who's your big guy today that you're going to be leaning on for the outcome of this game to finish 24-14 for you?
I think that defensively, the secondary, Trey White, the way he's looked in the second half of the year, Cole Bishop, and Christian Benford, even with one element of that, probably Hancock, we'll see, maybe it's Cam Lewis. One player in that secondary that we don't really know what we're going to get from today. The other 3 pieces being so consistently good in the last half of the season, I think they're going to shut down Denver doing anything they want to do in the pass game. And then on offense, like the guy that I'm not confident in that I'll throw in for who needs to get results is Coleman. Because he's going to be doing a lot today. A lot of snaps, blocking in the screen game. If it's him versus Riley Moss, the ball will go there a few times. So I've got Coleman in there as a big piece of who needs to get results today.
Yeah, I'm also with you on Coleman. I also think I think they're going to need something from Curtis Samuel, and I don't think that they really intended or thought they were going to get to that point this year. I think that when they put him on IR, that that was kind of like, just go sit over there and we're going to finish the season without you. And they're going to need him today. Stay tuned following today's game for the Coach's Podium with head coach Sean McDermott live during the Bills post-game show brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. All right, Joe, thanks. Enjoy the game. I'm Nate Geary. We'll have Countdown to Kickoff on the other side. Derek Kramer joins me next here on WGR. Countdown to kickoff here on the Buffalo Bills Radio Network, getting you ready for the 4:30 p.m. AFC Divisional Round kickoff between the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos with Chris Brown and Eric Wood calling the play-by-play from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. Countdown to kickoff is presented by Northtown Automotive. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it at Northtown. Time now for the Northtown Hyundai pregame huddle. Northtown Hyundai, Western New York's premier Hyundai dealership. We're going to wait one moment as we connect with our Bills beat reporter, Sal Capaccio, who's going to join us live from the broadcast booth in Denver. Got Derek Kramer in here this afternoon. I'll do that 15 more times. For Joe DiBiase here this morning. And setting the stage here early, Derek, I'll tell you, it's been a weird week in this lead up because last week of how, I guess, the anxiety, the lack of confidence that I had going into that Jaguars matchup, and to feel so dramatically flipped come 1 week when they're actually facing the number one seed coming off of a bye week and everything else that goes with that and the advantages that go with that. Not to mention, we didn't even mention the, potential advantage that Elijah Moore sharing, any and all information that he had on the Bills offense with the Denver Broncos as well. He was rewarded with a game day activation for this game as well. All that to say, are you with, I think, most of us that you're feeling largely more confident this week than you were last?
I'm going to say no. I'm about as confident as I was last week, and that has more to do with the Bills than the Broncos themselves. I've been the one this week taking a step back, Nate. Everyone's like, as high as the clouds, how they're feeling about this game, and I'm sitting over here going, the Bills have to answer a question for me. Beat a top 10 passing defense, please. And that's the thing that they've struggled with in a lot of their losses this year. Because even Atlanta was a top 10 pass defense this year, and they struggled mightily against that. They didn't look good against Cleveland, obviously, throwing the football, naturally. Can you answer that question for me so that I can then get to in the clouds as well for an AFC Championship game? Please. That's the only real thing holding me back here. I think the Bills, the hottest take I'm going to have here, the Bills have a distinct coaching advantage. Sean McDermott is better than Sean Payton. Sean Payton is Mike McCarthy with better PR. But I'm still going to go ahead and say it's the Bills. The Bills are a 6 seed for a reason. They are maddeningly inconsistent, and that means I'm not taking any of this lightly.
Well, let's go to Sal Capaccio, who now joins us from the broadcast booth down in Denver. Sal, good afternoon, and technically good morning to you still. I just brought this up, Sal, and I hadn't really thought about it too much this week until like the last 24 hours or so. But Elijah Moore, right? This happens across the league, right? Guys get picked up, and a lot of times outside of the playoffs, guys will get picked up off other people's practice squads, the week of a matchup in order to gain a little intel. How much value do you put in both the extra week of preparation? They had to kind of prepare for everybody, though, Sal. And then the addition of having Elijah Moore, a guy who was here during training camp, during install, having, I think, intimate knowledge of what Joe Brady and this offense want to do.
Yeah, I think it helps them a little bit. But I don't think it's the end-all, be-all or anything like that. The Bills know. They're aware. They're going to put in checks. Every single week they put in different checks, different audibles. They're going to change things up on a weekly basis. This happens around the league. It's not just Elijah or Davis Webb is their quarterback's coach, as you guys know. So he'll know a little bit about Josh Allen and maybe Joe Brady. And, there's some crossover between organizations all the time. So I do think it might help them a little bit here and there, but I don't think it's anything that's going to really impact the game per se. Down to guys making. You could even know what they might do conceptually. It doesn't mean you're going to know the exact play. And then the Bills just have to make a play, and this game is going to come down to that.
Sale, taking a look at the injury report, obviously Jordan Poyer and Maxwell Hairston listed as out, but several guys is questionable. Kind of the guy that has been talked about most this week, Terrell Bernard, what it looks like if he is back in the lineup. I think we're all expecting Shaq Thompson to still man that Mike linebacker spot. The other guy that I'm maybe most interested in is Ty Johnson. They elevated Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad as an elevation. But to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that Ty Johnson's not ready to go. I think you have to do that if there's a question as to whether or not Ty Johnson's going to be able to play with that ankle injury.
Yeah, I think the fact that they elevated Frank Gore Jr. and used an elevation on him probably.
Sal, we're actually experiencing a little technical difficulty up there from the booth, so we'll let you reconnect there in just a moment. I'll pose the same question here to you, Derek. Oh, we've got Sal back?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yep,
You're
go
fine,
ahead.
Sal.
You're good. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was on me. My fault. Anyway, it must be the altitude here. Just kidding. But anyway, so the fact that they elevated Frank Gore Jr. Tells me they probably will be without Ty Johnson, but that's not a certainty as of right now, guys, right? I mean, we'll see what happens, but they only get those 2 elevations, and this team has guys banged up, and we know that. And the fact that they did not activate DeMar Hamlin, I think obviously means that he's not going to be able to play. They only had 2 roster spots available. They had to do some roster juggling this week, and Frank Gore comes up. Ty Johnson probably not going to play, but we'll see. I mean, he is questionable. Maybe he goes out there and maybe pregame warmups can tell you a different story. And then as far as linebacker is concerned, they also didn't do anything at linebacker as far as remove anybody from the active roster. They have 6 linebackers, so that tells me maybe Terrell Bernard can't go either again because they didn't do anything with Balen Spector on the back end, which probably just gives you the same lineup you had last week at that position.
Sal, obviously the other name that people are going to be flocking to on the injury report is the elevation of Ed Oliver from injured reserve. How much do you think that he would end up being able to play in this game and the impact that he'd be able to potentially bring? Every game that he played this year, he was fantastic. The only downside is he only got to play in 3 of them.
Yeah, activation, actually, just for the wording there, not elevation. He wasn't on the practice squad, obviously. They activated him to the 53-man roster. No, that's okay, just so everybody's aware, because they activated him and Curtis Samuel off the IR to return list. And I do think he can make an impact in this game. But if you're thinking about, okay, you're suddenly going to fix the run defense that's been leaky this year, I think that's the wrong way to look at it at Oliver. Yes, he could be an impactful guy in the backfield. He can make a TFL. There's no doubt about that. But I think his real impact could come in maybe pushing the pocket from the inside a little bit, the interior pressure. This is a very, very good Denver Broncos offensive line. They don't allow a lot of sacks, hardly any at all. It's going to be challenging for the Bills to get to him. But if Ed Oliver can create a little bit of havoc on the inside and force Bo Nix to his right or left, then maybe Joey Bosa is waiting for him or Greg Rousseau is waiting for him. And I think that's where Ed Oliver's impact might be felt.
Sal, we're going to find out, once the game starts, what the plan is at safety with no Jordan Poyer in the lineup. I know all week you've kind of been leaning in on, the preparation and really what they've shown all season with Jordan Hancock being the guy when Poyer was off the field in some of those third down situations. And then Poyer kind of just took over in a full-time role in that spot as he just continued to play better and better all season. But you've also mentioned this week, the confidence this team has in Cam Lewis playing the safety position and really being the jack of all trades for them. If you were really thinking about this game, thinking about the matchup, some of the pieces outside of Cortland Sutton, right? Like Evan Ingram's a nice piece on this offense that probably doesn't have the biggest role, but the 2 speedier receivers, does that maybe lean you in one direction with Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, knowing the speed and their ability to get downfield of maybe Cam or Hancock, one of those guys over another, just based on what their kind of weapons look like in Denver?
No, for me, it's more about what the Bills need specifically, not to the weapons of Denver. What I mean by that is, yes, they have speed, but Bo Nix is actually one of the lowest air yard guys in the league. You know what I mean? Like, he checks the ball down a lot. They do not throw the ball downfield a lot. They have the ability to do that, and they'll do it once in a while. But Bo Nix and this offense, they like to kind of check it down a little bit. They don't throw the ball a ton downfield, so I'm not going to worry about that as much. To me, it's more about, is Jordan Hancock ready for this, to the communication piece, to see what he's seeing, to be able to rotate, all those stuff that we talk about all the time with safeties. I feel more comfortable with Cam Lewis there, but it doesn't mean Jordan Hancock do it with a full week's reps. I'm interested to see once pregame warmups start, guys, who they have out there as the starting safety.
And on the offensive side, Sal, all week the conversation's been around, well, just how important is Tyrell Shavers? How important are Gabriel Davis? How important are these guys to the functioning aspect of this offense? Joe mentioned it earlier. Their top 6 pass catchers since they acquired Brandon Cooks are all still going to be in this game and in this matchup. I sit on the other side, though, because I think the confidence that the Bills have had with Tyrell Shavers out there running and really, Sale, in one-on-one blocking situations with defensive ends, with outside linebackers, that's pretty rare in the NFL that a team has as much confidence as the Bills have had in Shavers specifically in getting those one-on-one battles, not just holding his own, but winning those battles. And I don't know, we had a caller call in. It's like, oh, gosh, what a concept. Now they're going to have receivers that can go out and catch the football instead of just blocking. And I know it's a little, tongue-in-cheek, but I think that largely blockers in this offense, especially an offense as potent as this Bills team is in the run game, I might not want to sleep on how important Tyrell Shavers is to the function of this rush offense.
100%. And they used Tyrell Shavers last week and Gabe Davis as chippers in the passing game for pass protection. Again, this is a really good blocking wide receiver. I understand it. You want guys. I do feel it's really interesting, and I'm curious to see, guys, how this wide receiver core is utilized, because they do have more speed. They do have pass catchers. They don't have those run blockers. But the Bills' identity is running the football, and it's going to hurt them to get away a little bit from what they do. They're going to have to figure out a different way. But, hey, maybe Jackson Hawes gets more time, right? This could be a Jackson Hawes, Reggie Gilliam game, right? And say, okay, we're going to use those guys to make sure that our run game stays on track. So I'm super interested in that.
All right, Sal, we'll hear from you in the Bills Roundtable next hour.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Sal Capaccio there joining us live from the broadcast booth in Denver. Quick update in the Sabres game, still 1-1. Sabres were on a 5-on-3, and they are expiring on their 5-on-3 opportunity here. So
not even 5-on-3, the entirety of it. All of the penalty.
Stinking the penalty.
Yeah, the power play made my blood boil a little
And
bit.
if you would like any updates, you can, of course, switch over to our sister station, the Bet 1520, as they've got Sabres. They have the Sabres broadcast, and they'll also have postgame as well. Let's get a quick check of the Barnes Firm injury update. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. We talked a lot at length about the Bills injury report. Jordan Poyer, Max Harrison out for this game with a hamstring and ankle injury, respectively. Terrell Bernard with his calf, Damar Hamlin with his pec, Ty Johnson with his ankle, Ed Oliver with his bicep, and Curtis Samuel with his elbow, all listed as questionable, although we are expecting Ed Oliver and Curtis Samuel to be available and ready to play in this game. If Curtis Samuel wasn't, I would have expected them to have another elevation at the wide receiver position. However, Curtis Samuel, I think Derek is going to have a big role in this game. I think this Bills passing offense, you talked about their ability to step up and how important that's going to be to your confidence level in this game, but moving forward, Curtis Samuel is going to have to be a big piece of that, and he hasn't really been relied upon at any point this season. He did have that big game last year against this Denver defense in their wild card win. I'm not sure that they need him to do exactly what he did last year, but I'm looking at Christian Kirk last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, just having a career day in a season where he's really not been relied upon at any point by the Houston Texans. And I think the Bills are going to have to rely on Curtis Samuel similarly to how Houston last week relied on Christian Kirk.
I don't think rely on is going to be the word here. Can you do enough? Can you give a couple splash plays in the passing game? And that's not just him, but Hardman, who was elevated from the practice squad for the game. You have these jittery type receivers in Hardman and Samuel joining Shakir. Maybe that means you can attack the middle of the field a little bit more consistently, and through short yardage, attacking the middle of the field that way. Because of the fact that, Pat Surtain's on the other side of the field there. Riley Moss is a good corner. He's a little grabby, but that's what happens when you get thrown at a bunch. I think that there's an opportunity, though, attacking with some quick hits, because Joe Brady loves to do that with Shakir in particular. But now you have more players that you can do that with, so I would like to actually venture there's a little bit more unpredictability, because Shakir's usually your screen guy. Feed him that. Manja. However, if you also have Samuel and you also have Hardman on the field in certain sets, is that screen going to Shakir? I don't know. Maybe it's going to someone else. And that might allow for a little bit. And I know the bubble screen has kind of been the bane of many people's existence here. It worked pretty well last week. And I think that you have chances to frustrate Denver a little bit with that, and then you can attack the seam. Like you have the guys flanking on a bubble screen, and then you've got Kincaid going up the middle, for example, or it's Knox. I think you could play a little bit of head games because you have so many of the same archetype at wide receiver for this game.
Yeah, I do. I would agree. I said this earlier. The Bills are going to have their most athletic and their fastest lineup at wide receiver that they've had all season. And not for nothing, that might mean something, it might not, but whether or not they'll be able to, utilize that speed in a functioning way where they can try to get down the field in this Denver defense, I don't know that I'm necessarily looking for this Bills offense to hit big plays over the top. It's not really who they've been. It's not how they've won consistently week in and week out this year. So I'm not sure that I'm really looking at a big change for this Bills offense now that, Curtis Samuel's available and now that McCole Hardman's available, taking deep shots down the field on the backside, on a backside post or a backside vertical route. I don't know that that's what I'm looking for. But I guess, Joe mentioned this too, is I think they've got some more juice in yards after the catch. And that's really where I think a Curtis Samuel comes into play. That now you're not just going to rely on, Khalil Shakir to be your only yards after catch guy, because I do want to note, we talked a lot about this matchup between Surtain and Brandon Cooks, and is Surtain going to line up over Brandon Cooks and sort of try to eliminate him all game and to turn into a 10-on-10 with the rest of the defense? I still maintain I think that's a positive for the Bills, for this reason, is that if you take Patrick Surtain out of the play and you just have Brandon Cooks on the boundary and it's 10v10, I like the Bills' chances there. And now the question is going to be, is Surtain going to pop down and cover Dalton Kincaid on third downs like Benjamin Albright mentioned earlier this week on the afternoon show? Or is he going to stay on the outside? Is he bump down and maybe try to cover Khalil Shakir on those third and short plays? Will we see more of the screen pass? And it worked last week largely. And I do wonder, the short pass, the short and quick passing game has definitely been a weakness. If there's one true weakness for this Denver Broncos defense, it is in that short passing game.
And again, that's where the same archetype of receiver can be useful in this game. That is where Curtis Samuel can be shining his brightest. It's where Mecole Hardman has made a lot of his money in the NFL, is you get them on some quick hits. You get them making some plays and being the twitchy receiver with the yards after the catch. It's also, with Brady, an opportunity to kind of deviate from the plan, which is maybe now you can have Shakir running a little bit more of the intermediate routes, because you have other guys that you could use for those short routes. You have the opportunity for this. Again, it hurts not having both of the guys that are fantastic blockers in the run game. At the same time, I see opportunities here. I see chances for deception. It's a hell of a test. Denver's really good, and you do have to get the ball out quick if you're going to neutralize the pass rush. I feel like it's going to fit in a way that allows the Bills to move the ball a little bit differently than what they're usually used to. I'm also going to wonder, is this one of the top-ranked run defenses where the numbers might be lying? Jacksonville showed their muscles last week.
They certainly did.
They proved they were the best rush defense in the league against the Bills. Buffalo couldn't get anything going. It didn't matter. Now it's going to be, can you go ahead and frustrate a little bit on the plays that Surtain might be covering Kincaid or Shakir? Can Brandon Cooks beat Riley Moss deep? Because they do play a lot of man. Can you get a PI penalty out of that, for example? Can Keon Coleman, who is a bigger body, draw a couple of flags? There's going to be opportunities here to frustrate Denver in ways that if you get the ball out quick and maybe you get Moss a little grabby on somebody, maybe you have a chance to attack the short game like how Denver is a little bit weaker too, you can move the football. And it's not like you have to do yeoman's work. I do believe in the Bills' defense against Bo Nix.
I also believe in the Bills' defense against Bo Nix. And I do think, all week you've heard Mina Kimes talk about it, Dan Orlovsky, the people I really lean on when I'm kind of, breaking things down and trying to get good reviews and good commentary about what each team does. The disguising in coverage, and I've been, I think, very vocal because I feel like I'm the only one mentioning his name, but Ryan Nielsen, not necessarily on the back end in coverage disguising, but what they're able to do at the line of scrimmage, the 3-3-5 that they've really kind of integrated into a base concept that this defense runs. But what they're doing with what they were planning to do with Michael Hoyt, I think had a big influence from Ryan Nielsen. And I think Ryan Nielsen played a big part in their preparation of a team that he knows pretty intimately and the personnel that he knows pretty intimately, being the defensive coordinator last season in Jacksonville. And I do think he's had a big impact on the shift philosophically this Bills defense has undergone the last month or so. And again, I think the biggest turning point in this defense we saw in the second half of that Patriots game, what they were able to do to confuse Drake May. And it's not just a young quarterback in Drake May that they were able to confuse. I thought they did a great job in the second half last week, and especially on that last drive early in the game, the interception to Shaq Thompson. It's a basic cover two shell, but I think you're going to see a lot is what the Bills are able to do is make things look like man coverage, but really spinning off into zone. And I think today in this game, that's going to be hugely important. If you're going to try to bait Bo Nix, make things look like man and then flip into zone. And I think that's where you could potentially get him into trouble. Let's get connected with our fans, powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills, and get to Harry, who's been waiting patiently. Harry, you're on Countdown to Kickoff. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, how are you today?
Very well.
Good. I'm I'm the older guy that went to the rock pile with his dad when he was 8. I'm the guy that's been slinging hot dogs out there on Abbott Road for 40 years. And I'm the guy that's looking at James Cook today. I think that with what we got going on with different receivers, we got to remember who that guy is. I'd like to see him get a pass or two. I think when we get him in space, he sees everybody. He knows where they are. He can make a move. It could be a big day for James today. But I get all the talk about the different strategies with different receivers in there. And, I think a part of that passing game is these guys are used to – I think they all got used to catching the ball from Josh. And I think we're going to have a game similar to last week, but maybe a little surprising in the James Cook area.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Harry. I would probably agree with you that last week's game might be a good model for what this week could look like. And, Denver being the much fresher team coming into this matchup, I think will have some sort of impact. I don't know the extent of what that impact looks like, but there's just no way a team, even on the short week, even if it was they didn't have a bye week and they played last week, but they played on Saturday or they played on Thursday night, having a full week of rest compared to that extra day. I mean, go to the gym and work out and give yourself the extra day of rest and see how much better your body feels. It's, these guys, especially in the physical nature and the matchup that they played last week against Jet, that was one of the most physical games. It's very possible, Derek, that on their way to a Super Bowl, they're going to basically face the 3 most physical defenses in the league in back-to-back games. And not for nothing. I said this earlier. It's like, I know the Bills aren't going to face Patrick Mahomes or, Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson, but I might argue, well, they beat all 3 of them in the regular season, so not for nothing. They had to go through them at some point. It just didn't happen to be in the playoffs.
They shut the door on each of them in the postseason.
Yes,
for the postseason.
And it's the physicality, the defensive prowess that this team had to go through. The top 2 rush defenses in back-to-back weeks. We'll see what James Cook's impact is. I'm really hoping that Ty Johnson can go in this game, not because I think he's like a change of pace backer, but just in the pass game. I think they really were able to last year, obviously the big play, but I think largely at the end of last season, Ty Johnson was a huge integral part of what this team was doing through the air, and I think he's been a huge integral part of what they've been doing through the air this year as well.
And it's quietly the pass blocking and everything that he's able to do, not necessarily just as a receiver out of the backfield. However, I don't like their chances. They elevate Frank Gore. That's probably
you're going to see more Ray Davis than not, I think, in a lot of the situations.
What I'm saying is that probably doesn't help Ty Johnson's case.
I think that he's probably more so a game-time decision, and if you're a game-time decision, you have to have the guy ready if he can't go.
Yeah.
So I do think that, Ty Johnson's going to give it a go on the field before the game today. I've got quiet confidence he plays in this game. I think it's too big of a game. I think he's an important piece, and the question is going to be, can he get the ankle right in time? Let's go on tap next on Countdown to Kickoff. Derek and I are going to take a deeper look at this week's opponent, the Denver Broncos. Next on tap is brought to you by Miller Lite. It's the proud partner of the Buffalo Bills. It's Miller time.
Time to survive and advance once again as the Bills are in Denver for the divisional round to take on the Broncos. Kickoff is set for 4:30 with Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth in full play-by-play action right here on the Buffalo Bills radio network. Quick look at the injury report. Sean McDermott ruled out Maxwell Hairston and Jordan Poyer earlier this week. We'll be awaiting more on the inactives before kickoff. That's your Barnes Firm injury report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-million. The Bills have activated wide receiver Curtis Samuel and defensive tackle Ed Oliver from the injured reserve and have elevated wide receiver McCole Hardman Jr. and running back Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. And for the Broncos, per Sal Capaccio on X, they've elevated former Bills wide receiver Elijah Moore, as well as tight end Caleb Lohner from the practice squad. The Sabres seeing some early action today before Bills-Broncos. They're in action against the Wild. They trail 2-1 at the end of the first. You'll be able to catch all of the action over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Around the NFL, following Bills-Broncos, the 49ers, Seahawks tonight with kickoff at 8 o'clock. Some news surrounding that matchup. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports that quarterback Sam Darnold, dealing with an oblique injury, hasn't thrown a football since Thursday, while Drew Lock has taken practice reps over the past 2 days, so we'll keep our eyes on that. The Texans take on the Patriots tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and the Rams and the Bears cap it off tomorrow night at 6:30. This sports update is brought to you by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. Now for a look at your Denver weather, brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet. Score big with new Chevys and quality pre-owned vehicles from Paddock Chevrolet. We're looking at a game time temperature right around 34 degrees. No chance of precipitation. The high for the day is 38 degrees. I'm Joe Cali for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network.
I mean, last year, the plan going into Buffalo was run the ball a bunch, keep the game tight, and have a chance late on. And then Sean Payton spiraled mid-game and started, throwing the ball over the yard and got us in trouble, and you saw where it went. You even saw the altercation on the sideline where Vance Joseph was trying to calm him down and get him back to the game plan. And so that's the thing. I just don't think there's a lot of faith here in Sean Payton sticking with the run game when he's got to be the smartest guy in the room throwing it all over the yard. I mean, Bo Nix led the NFL in passing attempts this year, which is an absurd thing if you've ever watched this offense.
That is Broncos reporter Benjamin Albright. He was on the afternoon show with Chopin Bulldog earlier this week on our flagship WGR550. I'm Nate Geary, Derek Kramer sitting alongside. Countdown to Kickoff is presented by Northtown Automotive. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it at Northtown. Let's take a look at this week's opponent. Of course, the Denver Broncos, 10th in total offense, 11th in passing, 16th in rushing. To Ben's point, they led the league in passing attempts, so only finishing 11th is definitely notable in that. Defensively, kind of a different story. Second in total defense, 7th against the pass, and 2nd against the run. So back-to-back weeks, they will face the top two by yards per game run defenses in the Jaguars and now the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be an interesting game in the way that, I think it's going to be a lot closer. People are a lot more confident in this game, and I'm trying to take a step back here. Denver is a weird team this year, but this has been a weird year across the NFL. I don't trust anything still is really the core mechanic of where I'm at in this game.
I can tell you what I do trust. I do trust Sean McDermott.
I trust McDermott more than I do Payton because
of what Ben Albright just said in that clip.
And not to mention, so Zach and I had someone on from Denver yesterday as well, and very much the same sentiment of Sean Payton feels like he's got to be the smartest guy in the room. And the one thing I will give Payton credit for is he is aggressive. He does not live in his fears. He will not make a cowardly choice. Hell, he might go for it on a fake punt, 4th and 2 like he did last year in that game. Why? Because he's got a good defense at his back.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there for him to be as aggressive as he always is, back when you could just call an onside kick whenever you felt like it, and you didn't have to warn another team that you had to do it. Goes ahead and makes the onside kick in the Super Bowl just because. So that is the one thing I will give Payton credit for. However, again, I think that McDermott has grown. He has evolved. He has gotten better as a coach. I suspect that is going to be one of the ways that the Bills find an advantage today.
Let's get connected with our fans, powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills. Mac in New York, you are on Countdown to Kickoff. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I was watching or listening to Football 301 from Yahoo Sports, and they pointed out that the Buffalo Bills offensive line is a lot bigger than the the Broncos defensive line. And I just want to point out, I think we really do have an opportunity to play some bully ball, and I'd really like to see us do that today, whether it be, getting all the running backs, whoever they are, involved today, and also taking a little bit of pressure off Josh. If we could get him, use that bully ball to get into second and short, third and short situations and not make Josh have to go Superman, I'd really like to see that from our offense. And I think it's something that we've done all season, and I think we've got to kind of continue to do it today, not only to win this game, but also if we're going to make a run, taking a little bit of pressure off Josh and having him feel a little better tomorrow morning would be a huge win for us. So just want to chime in there, and thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mac. They do not have a 300-pound defensive lineman.
No, but what they do have is when it comes to making life easier on Josh Allen, right? Denver does play a lot of man defense, right? They have the players to do so.
Yep.
And what that typically means, you can send some rushers at Buffalo.
I would be willing to bet you they'll play less man.
Allen turning it around on them could be a danger, yes.
I don't think having their defenders turn around on Josh Allen's a good idea.
Yes, and that is the equalizer on this. But they also do happen to blitz a decent amount. The Bills against the Falcons reminds me of that problem. Jeff Ulbrich sent the house repeatedly in Atlanta, and it frustrated the Bills. That's something that Buffalo has not figured out this year is the blitz pickups. Not as consistently as the year prior.
I thought last week, though, Josh Allen did an unbelievable job at the line of scrimmage. No play better than the one they had, the big play in the fourth quarter on the final drive to Brandon Cooks, where they've got a free rusher and Josh Allen just off the back of his foot flips his wrist and throws the ball 50 yards down the field on a dot. And when that ball was thrown, that's the kind of play, at least to me, that the Bills are going to have offensively today. They're going to have to find ways to stretch the ball down the field. That doesn't necessarily mean those big passes down the field, 50, 60 air yards. But what it does mean is like that Dawson Knox play over the middle of the field where Josh Allen threads the ball over the jumping linebacker in that cover 2 look. Find the areas in the zone when the Denver Broncos run zone coverage. Can the Bills take advantage of that and find those holes in zone coverage? And when they're playing man, can they use mesh effectively, right? That's been their MO all season in the past game. And I think that's their main answer when teams want to run man coverage against them is run mesh concepts. And I think if you can disguise it the way that they have later on in the season where you're running mesh with a running back out of the backfield, that's where I think Ty Johnson, that's why to me in this game, in this matchup against man coverage, having a running back who is I think, good in the pass game as Ty Johnson is, becomes really important. But I do think you can use James Cook in a lot of those same ways in the pass game, in mesh concepts, disguising a little bit, having him come out of the backfield as one of the crossing routes, and then using Khalil Shakir. I do think Shakir's got another 8 for 60 game. He is, in the playoffs, he becomes one of the most important pieces for this Bills offense and for Josh Allen.
And it's almost like it's a slam dunk when you throw it to him in the postseason. That's the other part of this. His target efficiency is fantastic. What are the Sabres doing? Anyway, focus. I think that the other player that we have not mentioned enough here is Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid is their big play artist this year. He is the guy that every game that he has played, except for maybe a couple, he's always getting a 20-plus play in there, flipping the field, making a big play, scoring a touchdown with it. And Jacksonville last week was no exception to that. Dalton Kincaid has been their big play artist this year, and it's good that he's healthy for this game because you need another one of those against a Denver defense that you're going to have to create your opportunities and take them where you can get them.
Let's go back to the phone. Sean in Long Island. Sean, you're on Countdown to Kickoff. Good afternoon, Sean.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I'll just preface this by saying, I want to go down the rabbit hole of the team now playing, the bully ball style here, where when they played the Falcons, I believe, early in the year, they did have the same big-time advantage in that regard, yet it did not work out well. But they did have opportunities to go against the Texans and the Eagles. So they've had a fair share of some good pass rush teams. Obviously, they didn't really perform that well against those. Do you think, though, over the course of the season, they might have picked up some valuable lessons and could apply them today to hopefully neutralize what Denver can bring to the table? And then secondly, I'm just not a great fan. I'm just always negative. I'm always thinking they're going to lose. So I just want to get that out of my system. So I apologize for this question. But if Dawkins is like a mess today, let's say he's a mess and he has penalties and he gets his ass kicked, do you think that there's a chance, because of our cap situation, that they look to maybe move on from him in the offseason and try to get more cap and, add some more weapons for Josh here? That's a twofold question, but thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Sean. Let me first talk about Dawkins, because I think in very rare instances this year has he been a mess. He is one of the best left tackles in football. he has a game a lot like Trent Williams. I'm not saying he is Trent Williams. He's got a game that's going to, I think, last quite a long time into his career. He's going to be able to play until he's 35, 36, 37 years old. I still think be very effective. He can move with the best tackles in football. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think, if anything, he and Spencer Brown, I think, are both candidates for restructures in the offseason in order to open up and free up cap space. I don't think you get better by moving on from Deion Dawkins. I think the guys on the interior are going to be the hard part, right? I think all three guys are in expiring contracts. Maybe, I think Osiris Torrance might have one more year on that rookie deal, but otherwise, you've got Connor McGovern that's going to be a free agent, and David Edwards is going to be a free agent, both of which David Edwards is going to be up for a big-time increase in pay after the last two seasons he's had after signing, I think, a very minimal contract. But I think it's time for them to have Alec Anderson step up. They've been grooming Anderson a lot like they groomed David Edwards when he came over from the LA Rams. It might be his time, whether that's at center or guard, and then signing the other one. So, no, I don't believe Deion Dawkins, and I'm not looking at him in this game. I'm not really worried about Dawkins. I thought he handled his business last year against Nick Bonino, who is, one of the premier pass rushers. I think he's had 14 and a half sacks. Edgerrin Cooper on the other side, a very good edge rusher. But these are two tackles, I think, part of what makes this offensive line so good and so, especially in pass blocking, is on the edges. And I don't think you want to, especially on Josh's blind side, at this point of his career, finding someone else to take that position. I'm just not looking at that direction.
Yeah, and when it comes to Dawkins, he's had himself some rough games, but I look at that Texans game in particular. He leaves the game, goes in the blue medical tent, comes back, and then he misses the next game with a concussion. That makes me think that he played with a concussion in that game and therefore was not in his right sense of mind. So, of course, you're going to look bad on that. I saw you twitch, and I thought the Sabres got scored on again.
No, luckily.
They are currently harshing the vibes. But when it comes to Dawkins, offensive linemen in particular, you don't notice them until they screw up.
Yeah.
And this year, Allen takes 40 sacks. That's going to be something where the offensive line does get highlighted a little bit more on the unfortunate side of things. But overall, I'm not looking at a replacement for Deion Dawkins for at least another couple of years.
I would agree. All right, on tap next on Countdown to Kickoff, we're going to take a look at this week's quarterback matchup. Next on tap is brought to you by Miller Lite, proud partner of the Buffalo Bills. It's Miller time, but first, it's time for this week's player profile. Bills defensive tackle Phidarian Mathis. Just kidding. We are going to take a timeout on the other side. This is Countdown to Kickoff.
I feel good. Honestly, I feel better than I have the last few weeks.
That is Joshua Patrick Allen. After being on the injury report for like 6 different injuries, because it really be like that. Countdown to Kickoff is presented by Northtown Automotive. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it at Northtown. Before we go back to the phones, let's preview this week's matchup at quarterback. And Bo Nix lining up for the Broncos on the other side, a 63.4% completion percentage on the season, 3,931 yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a mere 6.4 yards per attempt, one of the lowest in the league amongst qualified passers, and a 10.1 yard per completion rating. A passer rating of 87.8 is 26th in the NFL. And a QBR of 58.4 is 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So not incredibly elite numbers.
Bo Nix is solid enough for the job, I guess, is the way I'd put it. He's not terrible. There are some moments in games where he is indeed not good. But on the overall scope of things, you could do a lot worse than Bo Nix. As a matter of fact, Nix very well may establish himself as the new Mendoza line, so to say, for quarterback play in the NFL. If you've got a quarterback better than Bo Nix, you're set. If you've got a quarterback worse than Bo Nix, find a new quarterback. But for Denver, he gets the job done. And that's the part where I will go ahead and pay that respect. Nix can move. The Bills have been frustrated by quarterbacks that can be on the move at times. I'm not going to go ahead and just say, oh, Bo Nix is garbage. No, that's just not right. It's also, though, I think that Sean Payton asks a lot out of him when there are limitations.
Yes, I would agree there are limitations in his game, but I have kind of maintained, I do think he is just the ideal quarterback for Sean Payton's short passing game. He does make quick decisions. He's an accurate thrower of the football. He had a lot of experience in college. But I look at these two quarterbacks, and there is a clear advantage for the Buffalo Bills. And sometimes the quarterback advantage isn't enough to overcome other things in this game. But with me picking the Bills, I'm leaning into the advantage that the Bills have at quarterback over Bo Nix. Let's go to Eric in Hamburg, who's been waiting patiently. Eric, you're on Countdown to Kickoff. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good. Yeah, I just wanted to call. I'm feeling really good about today. What a time to be alive as a Buffalo fan. We've got the Sabres in a playoff spot in January finally. Bills are looking good. I think I'm feeling really good about possibly going all the way. And I hadn't heard anyone really talk about this, but, after the 20-year anniversary the other day of the 05-06 season and just kind of like reminiscing on memories of like the parties in the plaza and stuff, have you guys heard, or do you think there will be anything if the Bills were to make it to the Super Bowl of like either a party watch at the stadium or a party watch at the arena?
Well, Eric, if you recall, a couple of years ago, the Bengals, they got real butthurt when the Bills started trying to sell tickets for the next round of the playoffs, right? I think the Bills will probably hold off on any communications about a potential, watch party or party in the plaza type situation for a Super Bowl watch party.
Could there be plans in the shadows? Maybe.
Yeah, there might be.
I would actually not doubt it, as a matter of fact. There are going to be always plans concocted behind the scenes of like, hey, what if? Because you have to plan for what if, because otherwise being hilariously reactive is never a good thing. That said, you win this game, not to be harsh here, but you're only halfway done. So let's not go ahead and try to run before we're walking here.
Yeah, I think that what Josh Allen said in the locker room, right? What their reward for winning last week is an opportunity to play this week, and I think that point stands for me this week. This is an opportunity to get to another AFC Championship game. This team needs to find a way to get to a Super Bowl, and then from there, obviously, the rest is up for debate. We can talk about what happens in a Super Bowl matchup when we get there. But they've got, I think, two very, very important matchups. One starting this week, another penalty for the Sabres, by the way. Another important matchup today against a Denver Broncos team. Again, that is the number one seed, and I know, like, as a whole, they probably are the weakest one seed we've seen since that Vrabel, Tannehill, Derrick Henry Titans team a couple of seasons ago. But I'm still I can be, and I think we can all be confident without overlooking the fact that this is still the 1 seed, and they're there for a reason because they won 14 games. It's a lot of football games to win, and a lot of them were in 1-score games. I do expect this game to be a 1-score game.
I expect it to be a 1-score game. I expect this thing to be very tight. I expect this to be very uncomfortable because most of the Bills season has been.
Yes.
The Baltimore game to open the season was a warning, and we did not take it seriously right away. It is meant to be uncomfortable. It's the playoffs. And again, can the Bills answer me one question? Can you fight back against a top-tier pass defense, because you haven't been able to do that very often this year.
And they're going to have to do it again, pretty shorthanded at the wide receiver position. And against, you talking about a top 7. I mean, they're, I think, the 7th-rated pass defense in the league. They did it against the 16th-ranked pass defense last week. It was the one area that Jacksonville defense wasn't the strongest.
You could take advantage of Jacksonville in that way, and they were able to. Now it's going to be, okay, here's a defense that can do both.
This is a defense that can both stop the run and the pass, and they can get after the quarterback. And I think a lot of that, the passing numbers, does extend to the fact that they have one of the most potent pass rushers in the league. And then, I think probably the best true shutdown number 1 corner in all of football. Be listening for the ECMC halftime show. ECMC, go where the Bills go. I'll be recapping the key moments of the first half and bring you up to date on the Skyworks stats of the game. Skyworks Equipment Rental, building America from the ground up. On tap next on Countdown to Kickoff, it's the pregame roundtable with Sal Capaccio. Chris Brown and Eric Wood. Next on tap is brought to you by Miller Lite. It's the proud partner of the Buffalo Bills. It's Miller time.